The email from the inn asked whether I wanted salmon with dill, herb-roasted chicken, or a wild mushroom risotto. I chose the salmon. That was the entire decision. I had spent longer choosing toothpaste. I clicked the little box about dietary restrictions, typed that I was allergic to shellfish, and added, "Looking forward to celebrating with you." 43 minutes later, Claire replied from her personal email. "You aren't on the guest list. No hello. No apology. Not even a period, which somehow made it feel colder, as if punctuation was more courtesy than she could spare. I read it until the words stopped behaving like English. Then I called my son. Evan let it ring 5 times before sending me to voicemail. I called again because there are moments when dignity is just a nicer word for standing still while somebody drives away with your purse. This time, he declined the call. A text appeared. In a meeting. Can I call after work? I stared at that for a long time, too. My son was an insurance adjuster. His meetings were conducted in his car with a paper cup between his knees. Also, he had taken the week off for wedding preparations. I typed, "Did you know I wasn't invited?" The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then nothing. Until that moment, I had believed the missing invitation was a nuisance, a stationary problem, one more detail Claire was trying to make perfect. She had changed the invitations twice because the first paper was too yellow and the second paper, according to her, felt cheap in a way photographs would pick up. I had touched both samples. They felt like paper. When I said so, Evan had laughed. "Mom, you're not the target market. I'm an invited guest. I'm exactly the target market." He had kissed my forehead and reached past me for the bowl of cashews on the kitchen counter. "See, this is why I come here. Perspective and free snacks." That had been in March, sitting in my kitchen with rain needling the windows, and Claire in the dining room on the phone with the florist. The wedding was scheduled for the first Saturday in June at a converted inn on Lake Bellwether, an hour and a half north of town. 32 guests, no children, muted flowers, no matching bridesmaid dresses, and, according to Claire, no traditions that didn't feel intentional. My husband Tom would have enjoyed that word. He would have pointed at the butter dish and asked whether I had placed it intentionally. He would have followed me from room to room asking whether the vacuum cleaner was intentional, whether the mail was intentional, whether the pants he had worn since 1998 were intentional. Tom had been dead 6 years, and I could still build an entire afternoon out of what he would have said. Claire came into the kitchen holding her phone away from her face like it had disappointed her. They can't guarantee eucalyptus in June. I looked at Evan. Can they guarantee a wedding? He covered his mouth, but I saw the smile. Claire did too. She smiled back, though hers had edges. It matters because it's the visual thread. Of course. I know it probably sounds silly if you're not a visual person. I own eyes, Claire. Evan coughed into his fist. That was what Claire later called tension. At the time, she handed me a legal pad and asked whether I could help collect mailing addresses for Evan's side. Apparently, the visual thread did not extend to finding Uncle Walter's apartment number. I said yes. I usually said yes, though I had become careful about offering. When Evan and Claire first started dating, I invited them to dinner every Sunday. Claire came twice, then told Evan the schedule felt a little fixed, so I stopped making it fixed. Then Evan began calling on Sunday afternoons to ask what I was cooking. The answer was almost always enough for 4. I had liked Claire in the beginning. That was the part I knew people wouldn't believe once the story became a family story and everybody picked a villain. She was funny when she forgot to be impressive. She did a brutal imitation of the woman who ran her neighborhood association, and she once spent an hour helping me remove a bird from the screened porch while Evan stood outside offering useless instructions. "Open the door wider," he kept saying. "There's a bird in my hair," Claire shouted. "If you have a contribution beyond architecture, now is the time." Afterward, she sat on my kitchen floor laughing so hard she cried. Her blouse was torn at the shoulder. There were feathers in the fruit bowl. I remember thinking how nice it was to see Evan with someone who could make a disaster enjoyable. Claire could be warm. She could also enter a room and begin correcting it. By April, my dining table had become a wedding workstation. A box of cream-colored gift bags sat beneath the window. Beside it were spools of green ribbon, small jars of local honey, printed maps to the lake, and 72 packets of pain reliever, because Claire believed good hosts anticipated hangovers. The bags were for out-of-town guests. Evan had asked whether I could assemble them because their apartment was buried in wedding stuff. My house, apparently, could be buried without consequence. I didn't mind the work. That was the embarrassing truth. I liked folding the tissue paper and lining up the jars. I liked having a reason to be included in their preparations that didn't require asking whether I was included. I put on old Motown records and worked at the table after dinner, tying ribbons while Tom's empty chair collected strips of green thread. Evan stopped by one night with a box of printed cards. "You're saving our lives," he said. "I'm putting aspirin next to honey." Exactly. Life-saving. He opened the refrigerator, frowned at the contents, and took out a container of chicken soup. "Is this spoken for?" Most food doesn't have legal representation. He ate it cold, standing at the counter. At 38, Evan had a good job, a decent apartment, and an inability to recognize hunger until he was in my kitchen. He had Tom's dark hair and my habit of rubbing the space between his eyebrows when he was worried. That night, he rubbed hard enough to leave a red mark. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing." "Then stop trying to erase your forehead." He put the soup down. "Claire thinks Dad's cufflinks would be nice for the wedding." The way he said it made me look at him more carefully. "They're yours," I said. "Technically, I guess." "No, actually, he wanted you to have them." After Tom's funeral, I had put his few valuable things into a cedar box in my bedroom closet. His watch, the silver cufflinks his mother gave him when he graduated college, his wedding ring, and a stack of notes Evan had written him over the years. I had told Evan he could take the box whenever he was ready. 6 years later, it was still on my shelf. "You want them now?" I asked. "Not tonight. I'll lose them." "You say that as if you don't own drawers." "I own drawers. Claire owns a system." He smiled, but his eyes stayed tired. I touched his wrist. "You're happy, right?" The question embarrassed both of us the second it was in the room. He pulled his hand back to reach for the soup, though it didn't need reaching for. "Mom." "I'm allowed to ask once." "You've asked more than once." "I've thought it more than once. That's different." He scraped the bottom of the container with the spoon. "Yes, I'm happy. It's just a lot right now. Weddings are one day." He gave a short laugh. "Don't tell Claire that. I could have followed the opening. I could have asked what he meant, but there was something in his face I recognized from childhood. Not innocence exactly. Avoidance. Evan had always believed that if he kept a problem inside his mouth, nobody else could see its shape. So I changed the subject and asked how many bags Claire wanted. 24. There are 32 guests. Some people are local. Your Aunt Diane is driving 2 hours. She's staying at the inn. I looked up. Diane has her room already, apparently. My invitation still hasn't come. He rolled his eyes with such practiced affection that I almost apologized. "Mom, you're coming. I assume so. Then stop worrying. When does the assumption become legally binding?" He came around the counter and kissed the top of my head. "You're coming," he said again. "I promise." That promise sat beside me now while I waited for him to answer my text. The afternoon light had moved across the dining room, catching on the rows of unfinished welcome bags. 12 were done. On each one, Claire had asked me to attach a small card that said, "We're so glad you're here." I picked up one of the cards. My phone rang and I dropped it. Not the phone, the card. Though for one wild second I wished it had been the phone because then I would have had a practical problem. Cracked screen, replacement cost, something with a receipt. It was Diane. I answered carefully. "Hi, you sound strange." I said one word. "You said it like a hostage." My sister had been a dental hygienist for 31 years and could detect fear, dishonesty, and insufficient flossing from 3 rooms away. "I'm fine." Was that 2 words or one long lie? I sat at the dining table. "Did you get a meal email from the inn?" "Yesterday." "Why? What did you choose?" The chicken. I don't trust wedding fish. Do you have your invitation? There was a pause. Yes. When did it come? About 3 weeks ago. The answer landed softly, which was worse. Diane said my name. Not Helen. Nell. The name she had called me when we shared a bedroom and she was still small enough to climb into my bed during thunderstorms. I looked at the welcome bags lined up across the table. I got the meal email this morning, I said. I sent my choice to the venue. Okay. Claire wrote back and said I'm not on the guest list. Silence changed on the other end. I could hear Diane moving, then a door closing. What? I read the sentence aloud. That doesn't make any sense. No. She must mean there's a mistake with the list. She didn't say there was a mistake. Call Evan. I did. And he's in a meeting. He's off this week. Apparently the insurance industry is in crisis. Diane breathed out through her nose. Send me a screenshot. I don't need forensic analysis. It's 7 words. 6. What? You aren't on the guest list? Is 6. Thank you. I'm glad one of us is useful under pressure. That made her laugh once, then immediately stop. I'm coming over, she said. No. Helen, if you come over, this becomes real before I know what it is. It's already real. No, right now it's an email and Evan not calling me back. I want to hear what he says before we build the gallows. You think I'm dramatic. I think you keep rope in your trunk, only for emergencies. After we hung up, I carried the completed welcome bags from the dining room to the spare bedroom. I didn't tear them apart or dump the honey in the trash. I just moved them because their cheerful little cards had begun to feel like they were watching me. Then I went upstairs. The cedar box was on the closet shelf behind 2 winter blankets. I took it down and set it on the bed. Tom's cuff links were in a blue velvet case, still faintly tarnished around the edges. I rubbed one with my thumb. The last time he wore them was to Evan's college graduation. Tom had complained that the ceremony was too long, then cried before Evan's name was called. I heard a car door outside. Evan came up the front walk alone. He didn't knock with his key the way he normally did. He stood on the porch for several seconds, looking through the glass, waiting for me to make it easy. When I opened the door, his first words weren't, "I'm sorry." They were, "Please don't make this harder than it already is." I kept one hand on the door. "That's an interesting opening," I said. Evan looked past me into the hallway as if there might be a better mother standing behind me. "Can I come in? Are you on the guest list?" His jaw tightened. "Mom." "What?" "It matters now." He stepped inside when I moved, but I hadn't moved for him. I was backing away because my hand had begun to shake. He was wearing jeans and the blue button-down Claire liked, sleeves rolled neatly to his elbows. No tie, no jacket. Not a man interrupted during a meeting. He smelled faintly of her citrus hand soap. I closed the door. "Where were you?" "At home." "So you lied. I said I was in a meeting. You said you were in a meeting because you were sitting with Claire deciding how to answer me. We were talking about the startling development that your mother expects to attend your wedding." He rubbed the space between his eyebrows. "Would you stop doing that?" I said. "Doing what?" Looking tortured. "You're not the one who just found out from a meal form. I came over, didn't I?" I looked at him. There were so many things I could have said that they crowded each other out. Finally, I asked, "How long have you known?" He turned toward the living room. "Can we sit down?" "No." "Nobody has to stand for this." "I do." He sighed, and something in me went still. Not the sigh itself, the familiarity of it. Evan had been sighing at my questions for weeks, turning reasonable concern into a personality flaw. He wasn't confused. He wasn't ambushed. He had been rehearsing my foolishness while I tied ribbons for his guests. "How long?" I asked again. "A couple of months." I thought of the March rain, the cream and white paper samples, his mouth full of cashews. "You're coming, I promise. You promised me." I was trying to keep things calm. For whom? For everybody. Well, that went beautifully. He glanced toward the staircase, and I realized the cedar box was still open on my bed. "Does Claire know you're here?" "Yes." Did she give you talking points, or are these your own? That's exactly the kind of comment I'm talking about. What kind? The digs, the constant little digs. His voice had changed. He was calmer now, almost relieved. We were on ground he had prepared. I folded my arms. Go ahead. He blinked. What? You drove here to explain why I'm not invited. Explain. It wasn't one thing. They never are. Claire feels judged by you. Claire feels judged when the waiter asks if she's finished. You see? That was a joke. Not everything needs to be a joke. I nearly laughed. Evan and I had communicated in jokes since he was old enough to understand that a chicken crossing a road had career options. Tom's last year, when our house was full of pill bottles and bland food and fear, humor was sometimes the only thing we could swallow. Now it was evidence. Fine, I said. No jokes. Tell me what I did. He put his hands in his pockets. At Christmas, you corrected her in front of everyone. She said your father hated Christmas. She said holidays made him stressed. She had never met him. You didn't have to embarrass her. I said he loved Christmas and hated ladders. He complained while hanging lights because he was afraid of heights. You said it in that tone. What tone, Evan? He looked away. What else? When we canceled the cemetery trip, you made her feel guilty. You canceled while I was waiting in the car. We had other plans. You had brunch reservations. I had flowers melting on the back seat. It was the anniversary of Dad's death, and I know that matters, but I can't organize my entire life around it. I didn't ask you to. You suggested the visit because I knew you wanted me to, and then Claire wanted brunch. She didn't know we had plans. You didn't tell her because I forgot. There it was, a little flash of truth, exposed and then covered. I stepped closer. So you let her think I was dragging you to the cemetery. You let me think she knew and didn't care. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, only with pancakes. He pulled his hands from his pockets. Can you hear yourself? Everything becomes a case. Every mistake is proof that we're bad people. I don't think you're bad people. It feels like you do. I think you're being cruel right now. Does that count? His face reddened. We wanted one day without tension, and I'm the tension. Claire is anxious. Her parents' divorce was ugly. Family events are hard for her. I knew the broad facts. Claire's parents had split when she was in college and had spent the next decade using graduations, funerals, and holidays as places to continue arguments that should have ended in a lawyer's office. Her mother, Judith, was attending the wedding. Her father had declined. I had felt sorry for Claire. I still did, which was inconvenient. What did you think I'd do? I asked. Throw a drink at Judith? Object during the vows? Release a bird into the reception? Don't. I'm asking seriously. What danger am I to your peaceful day? You make Claire feel like she's taking me away from you. You're 38. If she can take you, she should have kept the receipt. Mom, no, answer me. Have I asked you not to marry her? No. Have I insulted her? You don't have to use insults. Have I shown up uninvited? He flinched. It was small, but I saw it. You think I'll come anyway, I said. I didn't say that. You both think I'm going to make a scene. We didn't know how you'd react. So you lied to prevent a reaction, then waited until 10 days before the wedding to see what kind of explosion you bought. I was going to tell you. When? Soon. Before or after I finished the welcome bags? His eyes moved toward the dining room. The table was empty except for the legal pad and one loose piece of ribbon. Where are they? In the spare room. Claire needs them by Friday. I stared at him. He heard it after the words were out. His mouth opened, then closed. That's what you're worried about? No, I'm just saying there are a lot of moving parts right now. I'm not a moving part, I know. Do you? He walked into the dining room and put both palms on the back of a chair. For a moment, he looked exactly like Tom coming home after a bad day, shoulders high, head lowered. The resemblance hurt in a place I couldn't protect. I handled this wrong, he said. That is a small sentence for a large thing. What do you want me to say? The truth would be refreshing. The truth is that Claire didn't want you there. And you, he gripped the chair. It took him too long. I wanted her to have the wedding she wanted. Does that wedding include a groom? Don't do that. You keep saying that instead of answering. I'm marrying her. I chose her. That means sometimes I have to put her first. The words were sensible. That made them worse. Putting your wife first doesn't require putting your mother outside, I said. Not everything is symbolic. This is a guest list. It's 28 people. I thought it was 32. We had to cut it. Is Judith going? You know she is. Your best man? Obviously. Claire's woman from work who spells your name with an A? Paige is one of her closest friends. Diane? He hesitated. Yes. I nodded. He straightened. It's not a ranking. It's literally a list of who matters enough to be in the room. That's not fair. No, it isn't. He dragged the chair out and sat, though I remained standing. We thought maybe you and I could do something separately. Dinner after the honeymoon. Claire too, if you want. How generous. I'm trying. No, you're offering me a makeup dinner for missing my only son's wedding while your aunt watches you get married. Diane is already staying at the inn. So, am I being excluded for Claire's comfort? Or did the guest limit force you to choose between me and Paige? Both. At least we found a complete sentence. He looked tired now. Not sorry, tired. Can you please not tell everyone? He asked. I felt something inside me shift its weight. Excuse me? We were going to say you weren't feeling up to it. We? So people wouldn't ask questions. You planned my excuse. We were trying to protect you. From knowing what you did. From embarrassment. The room narrowed to his face. He had once been a gentle man. I believed that. I also understood, for the first time, that gentleness without courage could become its own kind of brutality. Evan didn't want me hurt. He simply wanted my hurt to remain quiet enough not to inconvenience him. What about the brunch? I asked. He blinked. What brunch? The Sunday brunch you told Diane I was hosting for relatives before they drive home. That was just an idea. At my house. You always do breakfast when family visits. Will I be feeling better by then? He stood abruptly. The chair legs scraped the floor. This is what I was afraid of. What, questions? You turning it into a punishment. I haven't done anything. You're talking about canceling the brunch. There is no brunch to cancel. Nobody asked me. Fine. Forget it. I'm trying to understand the arrangement. I'm too disruptive to attend, but my house is peaceful enough for pancakes. His phone lit up on the table. Claire. He silenced it. She's under a lot of pressure, he said. And you think I'm not? You don't have a wedding in 10 days. Neither do I, apparently. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he glanced toward the stairs. Can I at least take Dad's cufflinks? The question was so perfectly placed that for a second I wondered if I had imagined it. What? I need them for the suit fitting tomorrow. They're upstairs. I know. I can grab them. No. He stared at me. No? No, Evan. They're mine. Yes. Then why are you keeping them? I'm not keeping them. I'm declining to hand them over in the middle of this conversation, like we just discussed the weather. His face hardened. Dad would want me to wear them. Your father would want to be at your wedding too. That's low, it's true. He left those for me. And they'll still be here when you're ready to come for them without asking me to help decorate the day I've been removed from. He stepped back as if I had shoved him. I'm not Claire's favorite person, I said. I can live with that. What I can't live with is you standing in my kitchen, eating my food, promising me I'm coming, then going home to plan how you'll explain my absence. I said I handled it wrong. You handled me, Claire called again. This time he answered. I'm still here. Her voice was tinny but clear. Is she going to be reasonable? Evan turned away, though not before I saw his eyes close. I walked to the front door and opened it. He ended the call. Mom, come on. The supplies are in the spare room. Take them. His relief was immediate, and that told me everything I needed to know. I added, unfinished. The relief vanished. I won't be assembling the rest. I won't be storing your gifts, meeting deliveries, or hosting a brunch I was never asked to host. You're really doing this? No, Evan, you did this. I'm just not finishing it for you. He stood in my hallway, looking at me like I had become someone else. Maybe I had, or maybe, for the first time, I had stopped helping him pretend I was somebody he could erase without losing. Evan didn't move. The open door let in a cool draft and the smell of somebody's charcoal grill. Across the street, Mr. Pritchard was dragging his trash cans toward his garage, stopping every few feet to inspect their wheels as though sabotage was common in municipal sanitation. "Are you throwing me out?" Evan asked. "I'm asking you to take your wedding supplies." "That's not what I asked. You're 38. I can't throw you out. I can only leave the door open until you recognize a hint." His mouth twitched, almost a smile. The old reflex between us. Then he remembered we were angry. "This doesn't have to change everything," he said. I leaned against the door. "You've known for 2 months. You've had time to get used to the idea. That's not what I mean." "I know." He looked toward the spare room. "How much is left?" 13 bags. "You said you finished 12. "I did." "There are 24 total." Then my math has deteriorated under stress. "Mom." One of the local people must have become out of town. He pressed his lips together. "Can you just show me where everything is?" I led him down the hall. The spare room had once been Evan's bedroom, though almost nothing of him remained. The walls were pale gray now, and the narrow bed wore a quilt my mother made long before gray became everybody's favorite color. The wedding supplies sat in 2 open boxes by the dresser. I had arranged the finished bags on top so the ribbons wouldn't crush. Evan picked one up. "You tied these differently. The sample knot came loose. Claire wanted a flat bow. Then Claire is welcome to untie them." He set the bag down with both hands. "She's going to think you did that on purpose. I tied a structurally superior bow to undermine her marriage. I'm telling you how she'll see it. And I'm telling you I no longer work in the department responsible for that." He crouched beside the boxes. There were too many loose items to carry neatly, so he began stacking the honey jars inside the unfinished bags. One tipped, rolled beneath the bed, and came to rest against the wall. He looked at me. "You have arms," I said. "I didn't ask you to get it. You gave me the face." "What face?" "The face you've used since you dropped a crayon under a restaurant booth in 1992. He got down on one knee and reached beneath the bed, his shirt pulled tight across his back. I noticed a small rip near the right shoulder seam. "Your shirt is torn," I said automatically. He twisted to look. "Where?" "Near the shoulder." "Great. I can fix it." The offer escaped before I could stop it. Evan sat back on his heel, honey jar in his hand. For one foolish instant, his face softened. I could see the route back to normal laid out between us. He would take off the shirt, I would get the sewing basket, and while I threaded the needle, he would say Claire had overreacted. Not apologize, not undo anything. Just give me enough of my son to make me cooperate. I stepped away from the doorway. "Or you can take it to a tailor." His expression closed again. "Right." We carried the boxes to his car in 2 trips. On the second, a package of pain relievers split open and scattered little foil packets across the walkway. Evan swore under his breath and bent to gather them. Mr. Pritchard called from across the street, "Getting ready for the big day?" Evan froze with one knee on the pavement. I could have saved him. All I had to do was smile and say yes. Instead, I waited. He scooped up the last packet and called back, "Almost. You must be excited, Helen." Mr. Pritchard beamed at me. He had attended Tom's funeral and brought a casserole containing enough canned tuna to end a friendship. "It's been full of surprises," I said. Evan shut the trunk, harder than necessary. Inside, he stood beside the front door with his keys in his hand. "I need the family photographs, too," he said. "No. Claire has already designed the display. She can redesign it. It's about Dad as much as it is about you. Then she can use a photograph of your father. You have all of them." "I gave you copies." not the wedding ones. I thought of the linen album in my bedroom cabinet, Tom in a brown tuxedo he had hated, me in a dress with sleeves so large they appeared to be making independent decisions. We were laughing in most of the pictures because the cake had begun leaning before the reception, and Tom kept whispering updates to me during dinner. 43 degrees now. It has entered the punch bowl. I also need the story you wrote, Evan said. I looked back at him. What story? How you and Dad met. You said you'd do it for the display. The pages were in my desk drawer, handwritten first, then typed and edited until they sounded appropriately warm without mentioning that the marriage had contained illness, money fights, a 6-month stretch when Tom slept in the den, because grief had made both of us mean, and thousands of ordinary nights that mattered more than our wedding. You want to display my marriage at a wedding I'm not welcome at. It's about the marriages that shaped us. I laughed then. I couldn't help it. He flinched. What? Nothing. Say it. I'm wondering what lesson mine contributed. Good lighting? This is why Claire feels like she can't win with you. Claire wants a sentimental paragraph about my life without the inconvenience of my body in the room. It's for me, too. The same words he had used about the cufflinks. I studied his face, wondering when love had become the phrase he used to cross every boundary. It's for me, Mom. As if whatever he wanted passed through a separate moral customs line. The answer is no. His keys cut into his palm. You're pulling everything at the last minute. I learned 10 days before the wedding that I wasn't invited. We're not asking you to pay for anything. I didn't mention money. I know, but you're acting like we used you. What word would you choose? We thought you'd still want to be part of it. I wanted to witness my son get married. I did not have a lifelong dream of filling gift bags for Paige from accounting. She's in marketing. Thank God we cleared that up. He opened the door, then stopped. Claire said you'd do this. Did she also predict the not situation? She said the second you didn't get your way, you'd make me prove I loved you by hurting her. The sentence landed differently than the others. It had polish. It had been discussed. And what do you think? I asked. I think you're proving her right. He left before I could answer. I closed the door and stood with my hand on the lock. The house was suddenly too tidy. No boxes in the spare room. No bags on the table. Only a few curls of green ribbon on the carpet, and one foil packet of pain reliever beneath the radiator. I picked it up and almost called him to say he'd missed one. Instead, I put it in the medicine cabinet. Diane arrived 20 minutes later carrying a paper grocery bag and the expression of someone prepared to identify a body. I told you not to come, and I've been ignoring you since 1968. She pushed past me. I brought wine, cheese, and those crackers you think are too expensive. They are too expensive. Then suffer. She set the bag on the kitchen counter and looked around. Where's Evan? Gone. You let him leave alive? I didn't have rope. She pointed at me. Mock me all you want. Someday you'll need something secured to a roof. Her humor disappeared when she saw my face. Oh, Nell. I turned away and opened the wine. The cork broke halfway out, which felt unnecessarily personal. Diane took the bottle from me without comment and worked the cork free with a butter knife. We carried everything into the living room. She poured 2 glasses too full and sat beside me on the couch. What did he say? I told her most of it. I left out the moment I had offered to mend his shirt. Not because it was shameful, exactly. Because I didn't want to hear tenderness presented as evidence against me. When I finished, Diane stared into her wine. You're not going, she said. It would be difficult without an invitation. No, I mean, if they come back tomorrow and invite you, you shouldn't go. I had not let myself imagine that. The chair hastily added. The phone call framed as compromise. Evan waiting for gratitude. I don't know, I said. Diane looked at me sharply. After this, he's my son. And, don't say it like that's a minor detail. I'm saying it like he's counting on it. I set my glass down. You're still going. It wasn't a question. Her face changed. Nell, I'm invited. I know. I'm staying at the inn with Walter and Marcy. If I don't go, it becomes a whole family event. It is a family event. You know what I mean? I did. Diane hated conflict when it involved her. She loved it when it could be managed on behalf of someone else, preferably with soup. I can watch Evan, she said. I can make sure he's okay. He's getting married, not having surgery. I can be there for you. I looked around my living room. That would be an impressive reach. She put down her glass. What do you want me to do? I didn't ask you to do anything. That answer is a trap. It's the truth. If I go, you'll be hurt. I'm already hurt. If I don't go, you'll think I did it because you forced me. I'm not forcing you. Diane stood and walked to the mantel, where a photograph of the three of us had been taken at a county fair. Tom was holding an enormous stuffed bear he'd won by accident. Evan was 26 and pretending to be embarrassed. I think you should let me go, she said. The phrasing irritated me. You don't need my permission. I mean, let me represent you. At the wedding, I'm banned from... Don't call it banned. What's the polite version? She turned. I could talk to him there. Maybe once he sees you're really not coming, he has known for 2 months that I'm not coming. But it wasn't real to him. It was real enough for him to lie. Diane folded her arms. You're angry at me now, I'm tired. That isn't an answer either. The doorbell rang before I could give her one. For half a second, I thought Evan had come back. It was a florist holding an enormous sample centerpiece, white roses, green leaves, and a card addressed to Claire. He checked his phone. Delivery instructions say, wedding party staging address. I laughed so suddenly he took a step back. Wrong address? He asked. No, I said. Just the wrong party. I signed for the flowers because refusing them would only send him on another 90-minute drive. He placed the arrangement on my dining table where the welcome bags had been. After he left, Diane touched one of the white roses. What are you going to do with this? I pulled Claire's card from the little plastic fork and set it beside the vase. For tonight? Nothing. My phone buzzed. A message from Evan. Please don't make any decisions while you're angry. We can talk tomorrow. Claire thinks it would be best if we all cooled down. Underneath it, before I could respond, another message appeared. Also, please keep the centerpiece watered. She needs it for the florist meeting Friday. Diane read it over my shoulder. Then she quietly reached for the wine bottle and filled my glass to the rim. Don't respond, Diane said. I wasn't going to. You have your typing face. I do not have a typing face. You squint with one eye like you're threading a needle. I put the phone face down on the couch. The centerpiece sat in the dining room, glowing under the pendant light, with the confidence of an object that knew it was expensive. It was too large for the table. White roses leaned over one another in a low silver bowl, surrounded by eucalyptus that apparently had been located despite the June crisis. Should I water it? I asked. Diane stared at me. I'm going to pretend that's the wine talking. The florist shouldn't lose flowers because Claire is awful. The florist has been paid. The flowers haven't. She looked toward the arrangement. You always do that. Do what? Find the one innocent thing in the room and put yourself in charge of protecting it. It's a plant. It's 12 plants with a marketing budget. I went to the kitchen, filled a glass, and poured water carefully into the base. When I came back, Diane was eating cheese directly from the knife. Classy, I said. We're in crisis. You said that during the toilet paper shortage. We were also eating better cheese then. I sat beside her. Neither of us spoke for a while. The silence wasn't comfortable, but it was familiar. We had spent much of our childhood on opposite sides of the same bedroom, pretending not to be angry. Diane would turn pages too loudly. I would breathe with moral superiority. Finally, she said, I won't go if you ask me not to. I won't ask. I'm giving you the option. You're giving me responsibility for your choice. She looked offended. That's not fair. No, it's accurate. I love Evan. So do I. He's making a terrible mistake. Which one? The wedding. I turned toward her. You don't get to say that. Why not? Because yesterday you were planning what shoes to wear. Yesterday, I thought Claire was difficult. Today, I think she's cruel. And Evan? Diane picked at a crack in the leather couch. Evan is confused. There it was. The family version of him that survived every collision. Claire was cruel. I was wounded. Evan was confused, as if he had wandered into the guest list while looking for a restroom. He knew, I said. He promised me while he knew. I heard you. Did you? What do you want from me? I want you to stop turning him into a passenger. She stood and carried our plates to the kitchen. I should go, she called. You've had wine. I had half a glass. You poured half a vineyard, and then you drank it. A cabinet opened, closed. She came back with her purse over one shoulder. I'll call you tomorrow. Diane. What? I'm not angry because you're considering going. Could have fooled me. I'm angry because you want to go and call it representing me. Her eyes went bright, but her voice stayed level. Maybe I want to see him get married because I've loved him his whole life. That's allowed. Thank you. You don't need my permission. Apparently, I need somebody's. She left the expensive crackers. I took them to the kitchen, folded the inner bag down, and clipped it shut because being devastated did not justify stale rosemary flatbread. At 9 the next morning, the centerpiece was still alive, and my relationship with my sister was not visibly improved. I had slept badly. Every time I drifted off, I dreamed I was searching for my place card in an enormous dining room. The tables kept extending. People I didn't know looked up from plates of salmon and asked whether I worked there. I was drinking coffee in my robe when my phone rang. Marcy. Tom's cousin Marcy had appointed herself keeper of family news after his death. She knew who had moved, who needed a hip replaced, and which marriages were in trouble based entirely on how couples stood in photographs. I considered letting it go to voicemail. Then I remembered the brunch. Good morning, I said. Is this a bad time? Yes, but go ahead. She laughed because she thought I was joking. I'm finalizing our travel plans. Walter says we should leave the inn early Sunday to beat traffic, but I told him you were doing breakfast. No, I'm not. A beat passed. Oh, Evan said you always host when everybody's in town. Evan says a lot of things when I'm not in the room. Is everything all right? I looked at the white roses. No. Marcy waited. Newskeepers understood silence as a collection tool. There won't be a brunch, I said. Please make other plans. Of course. I hope you're not coming down with something. Claire mentioned you might not feel up to all the wedding activity. The sentence was gentle. That made it difficult to answer. I feel healthy enough for the activity, I said. I'm not invited to it. Marcy made a tiny sound. Not invited to the brunch? The wedding? That can't be right. It came from Claire in writing. But you're Evan's mother. I've confirmed that. What happened? I could hear the hunger for detail fighting her genuine concern. In families, those two things often shared a coat. You'll have to ask Evan. Are you two fighting? We are now. Marcy lowered her voice, though there was no reason to. Is this because of Claire? It's because of a decision Claire and Evan made together. Oh, Helen, those two words nearly undid me, not because they were particularly kind, because they were the first response that didn't ask me to see the situation from someone else's side. I have to go, I said. Wait, does Diane know? Yes. Is she still going? That's Diane's business. Walter is going to have opinions. Walter once boycotted a restaurant because they put mayonnaise on his hamburger. He'll survive this. After we hung up, I stood at the sink and watched a squirrel fail repeatedly to reach the bird feeder. I had moved the feeder twice. The squirrel had interpreted both changes as challenges to his character. My phone began vibrating on the counter. First Marcy, then an unfamiliar number that turned out to be Walter, then Diane, then a group message titled Bellwether Weekend, where Marcy wrote, "Does anyone know if breakfast reservations are needed Sunday?" She did not mention me. Somehow, that was worse. Claire called at 10:17. I let it ring. She called again. On the third attempt, I answered. Hello? Helen. Her voice was controlled, every syllable set carefully on the table. "I think we need to clear up some confusion about breakfast, about everything. I'm listening." "Marcy contacted Evan. She was very upset. I told her there wouldn't be a brunch. You told her you weren't invited." She asked. "You could have said the plans changed." "They did." Claire breathed in slowly. "This is exactly why we wanted to handle the situation privately. You sent me a 6-word email. I was caught off guard. The venue accidentally pulled your address from an old contact sheet." "Which contact sheet?" "The one Evan gave them before we finalized the guest list. So I had been on a list once, long enough for my email address to survive." "And you thought I should hear it from you that way?" "I thought Evan had spoken to you. That surprised me enough to make me quiet." "When?" I asked. "He said he was going to explain weeks ago." I gripped the edge of the sink. "He told you I knew." "He said he was handling it." That wasn't the same thing, though Claire wanted it to be. "Did you ask whether he had?" I trusted him. "You should put that on the wedding display." Her voice cooled. "This is the hostility I'm talking about. You called my home because a relative learned the truth. What response were you hoping for? I'm trying to prevent a family pile-on 10 days before my wedding." "Our wedding," I said. "What?" "Evan keeps calling it your wedding, too. That is such a cheap observation. It's free. Take it or leave it." "Helen, I understand that you're hurt." "No, you understand that I'm talking. I know this isn't what you expected, but we are allowed to set boundaries around our own day." I almost admired the sentence. It was polished enough to sell with the invitations. "A boundary controls what you participate in," I said. "It doesn't require me to lie for you. We didn't ask you to lie. You planned to tell everyone I wasn't feeling well. That was to spare you embarrassment. The embarrassing part belongs to you." For the first time, her control slipped. "You have made every stage of this relationship about whether Evan is choosing you or me. I have never asked him to choose. You don't have to ask. You make him feel guilty until he volunteers. Is that what happened with the wedding?" Silence. I waited. When she spoke again, her voice was lower. "I told him I could not spend the day monitoring your reactions." "To what?" "To my mother giving a toast, to the family photographs, to Evan not centering every moment around his father." The last part struck cleanly. "Tom is dead," I said. "He doesn't need to be competed with." "That doesn't mean Evan has stopped competing." I had no answer ready. Claire continued, softer now. "Every milestone turns into what his father would have said, what his father would have done, how his father would have loved it. I'm marrying Evan, not the version of him that still performs for a dead man." Her words were cruel. They were not entirely false. I sat at the kitchen table. "Then you should have had that conversation with Evan," I said, "not removed me as if I'm the source of his grief." I did have that conversation, and he said the easiest solution was keeping the wedding small. Easiest. I could picture him saying it, head down, forehead rubbed raw, offering up an absence that belonged to somebody else. Claire exhaled. "I'm not calling to fight. What are you calling for? I need you to stop discussing this with the family. I also need the centerpiece available at 3 on Friday." I looked toward the dining room. "You can pick it up by noon today. Evan has appointments. Then you can come." "I'm working." "So is the florist." She went quiet. "Helen, withholding wedding materials won't change the guest list." "I'm not withholding anything. I'm declining to operate a storage facility. You agreed to help." "I agreed under the impression that I was part of the family occasion. You are part of the family, just not the part with a chair." She hung up. At 11:56, a gray sedan stopped in front of my house. Not Evan's car, not Claire's. Judith stepped out wearing white linen pants, dark sunglasses, and the expression of a woman arriving to collect something that already belonged to her. She rang once, then examined the centerpiece through the front window. When I opened the door, she removed her sunglasses. "I'm here for Claire's flowers," she said. "Of course you are." Judith looked at me for a long moment. Then, very quietly, she said, For what it's worth, I told her this was a mistake. That was the first surprising thing anyone had said all morning. I opened the door wider. Judith didn't step inside. She was a tall woman with silver blonde hair cut bluntly at her jaw. I had met her 4 times and seen 3 versions of her: charming at dinner, distracted at Christmas, and drunk enough at the engagement party to tell me she disliked centerpieces because they prevented useful surveillance. The sunglasses and white linen suggested a 4th version: diplomatic envoy. You told Claire excluding me was a mistake? I asked. I did. Why? Judith glanced at the neighboring houses. Could we not do this on the porch? You're here for flowers. I'm aware. I let her in. She walked directly to the dining room, then stopped when she saw the arrangement. That's bigger than the sketch. It drinks like a horse. Claire will be pleased you watered it. I'll update my resume. Judith gave me a look that was almost amusement. She gets that from you, I said. What? The look that says she has decided not to laugh because it might encourage me. Claire gets many things from me. Most of them she considers flaws. She set her sunglasses beside the vase and touched one of the eucalyptus leaves. Up close, I could see that her lipstick had bled into the fine lines around her mouth. Coffee? I asked. No, thank you. Water? No. An explanation? She lowered her hand. I said it was a mistake because it was bound to become the story of the wedding, she said. There could be a forest fire during the vows, and people would still whisper about the groom's mother not being there. That's why you objected? Would it help if I claimed moral purity? No, then let's save time. She pulled out a dining chair and sat. I remained standing. Claire has spent years anticipating humiliation, she said. Sometimes that means she prevents it. Sometimes it means she manufactures it early so at least she's in control. That sounds exhausting. It is. Mostly for everyone else. And you're attending. I'm her mother. The words came out without hesitation. Not defensive, factual. I sat across from her. When did you learn I wasn't invited? 2 weeks ago, I saw the seating cards at their apartment. Were there 28, 29? The photographer gets dinner. Good. I was worried he might have to survive on eucalyptus. She ignored that. I asked where your card was. Claire said you and Evan had decided it would be better if you didn't attend. They said I wasn't feeling up to it. That came later. How many versions are there? However many people ask. I looked at her hands folded on the table. Her nails were short and unpainted, which didn't match the rest of her careful appearance. Did Evan say that in front of you? No. So you believed Claire. I believed they had discussed it. Why? Judith looked toward the window, because the alternative was that my daughter was excluding her future mother-in-law without the groom's knowledge, and even Claire isn't foolish enough to try that. She didn't have to. No. The agreement sat between us. I asked, what exactly did you say to her? That it was unkind and strategically idiotic. Strategically. I'm not you, Helen. I noticed. My daughter doesn't bring me her softer feelings. If I had approached her with tears and motherhood, she would have left the room. Strategy is a language she respects. Did it work? Judith gestured toward the centerpiece. Apparently not. I studied her. Why didn't you call me? Because I thought you knew. And when did you realize I didn't? This morning, when Claire asked me to collect the flowers. Not when Marcy called? I don't know Marcy. She may know you by sunset. Judith's mouth moved again. This time she allowed the smile. Then she said, Claire told me the venue emailed you by mistake and you were blindsided. She was angry at Evan. She had an unusual way of expressing it. She can be vicious when she feels cornered. She created the corner. Yes. Again, no defense. I had expected Claire's mother to arrive armed with excuses. Agreement was more disorienting. Are you trying to get me to forgive her? I asked. No. Talk me into keeping quiet? No. Then why are you telling me this? Judith looked directly at me. Because if Claire did this to me, I would want someone to acknowledge that it happened. Something in her face changed as she said it. A door opened and closed too quickly for me to see the room behind it. Has she? I asked. Not this, but something. Every mother collects things her adult children believe never occurred. There was no self-pity in her voice. That made it sadder. She stood, sliding her sunglasses back on. I should take the arrangement. It's heavy, I manage. We each took one side of the silver bowl. Outside, the day had warmed. Judith's car was spotless except for 3 empty coffee cups in the passenger footwell. She opened the back door, and together we maneuvered the centerpiece onto the seat. A rose caught on the frame and snapped near the bloom. Judith stared at it. Claire counted them, she said. Of course she did. She picked up the broken rose and laid it beside the arrangement. I'll say it happened in transit. It did. She won't hear it that way. I closed the car door. Before getting in, Judith said, Evan told her you'd be upset for a while, then come around. I felt the heat of the pavement through my slippers. Did he? He said you always put family first. There are compliments that become insults depending on who uses them. Judith got into her car. I am sorry, Helen. Not for her daughter. Not on behalf of anyone. Just sorry. I watched her drive away. Inside, the dining table looked enormous without the centerpiece. One green leaf had fallen beneath a chair. I picked it up and held it to my nose, but it barely smelled of anything. My phone rang at noon. Evan, I answered. Why did you make Judith drive all the way over there? Good afternoon to you too. Claire is upset. About the broken rose? What broken rose? Then she isn't that upset yet. He made a strained sound. You could have kept the arrangement until Friday. I could have done many things. Judith said you interrogated her. We had a conversation about the guest list. She brought it up. I seriously doubt that. You might want to examine why. What does that mean? It means you're calling me to defend a woman you don't trust to talk to me for 15 minutes. I trust Claire. I meant Judith. I trust her too. Then we're all doing well. Mom, everybody is calling us. I've spoken to one person. Marcy has told half the family. Marcy could turn a weather report into a blood oath. You know that. You knew exactly what would happen. I answered a direct question. You could have waited until after the wedding and let everyone believe I chose not to attend for 10 days. Yes. Would that have killed you? I walked to the living room window. Mr. Pritchard had left one trash can beside the curb. It stood alone, lid tilted, waiting to be noticed. No, I said, it wouldn't kill me. That's the standard you've chosen? You know what I mean. I'm not sure I do anymore. He lowered his voice. Claire's having a panic attack. I'm sorry. You don't sound sorry. What would you like me to do? Call Marcy. Tell her there was a misunderstanding. What did she misunderstand? Tell her we're still figuring things out. Are you inviting me? He went silent. I waited longer than I should have. This isn't about changing the guest list, he said. Then there's nothing to figure out. You want me to blow up my wedding? No. I want you to stop asking me to hide the fuse. That doesn't even make sense. It makes perfect sense. He paced as we spoke. I could hear the soft change in sound as he crossed from carpet to the tile in his apartment. Claire thinks you're trying to turn everyone against her. I told Marcy the decision belonged to both of you. That's worse. For you, this is our wedding. Why does everybody get a vote? They don't. Then stop campaigning. I am standing in my own house, withholding Dad's things, pulling your help, telling relatives your father's life is not wedding inventory. They're my things. The cufflinks are yours. You can collect them after the wedding. After? Yes. That is punishment. It's a boundary. Don't use Claire's language against us. I almost laughed, but his anger frightened me. Not because I thought he would do anything, because he had never spoken to me that way, and because some part of me still wanted to apologize so he would stop. I'm not giving them to you for this ceremony, I said. I won't help you use your father to decorate the exclusion of his wife. Dad would be ashamed of you. The words came fast. He had not planned them. We both heard where they landed. Evan stopped moving. I sat down slowly in Tom's old chair. Mom, I have to go. I didn't mean you did when you said it. No, I was angry. Those aren't opposites. Please. I ended the call. For a while, I sat with both feet planted on the carpet, looking at the small dent in the armrest where Tom's wedding ring used to tap when he watched television. Then I called Diane. She answered immediately. Are you okay? No, I'm coming over. Wait. She waited. I could hear traffic behind her and guessed she was sitting in her car outside work. Are you going to the wedding? I asked. A long pause followed. Yes, she said. I think I am. I closed my eyes. All right. Nell, I don't want him standing up there with nobody from his father's side. He chose who would stand there. I know. Do you? Stop asking me that. Her voice cracked, and I hated myself a little for hearing it. I'm not asking you to choose me over Evan, I said. It feels like you are. That's because you've decided I'm the safer person to disappoint. She inhaled sharply. I wished I could take the sentence back, not because it was untrue, because it was. I have to get back inside, she said. Diane, I'll call you later. She hung up. The house was quiet again. Upstairs, I closed the cedar box and moved it from the bed to the highest closet shelf. Then I took the 2-page story of my marriage from the desk drawer. I didn't tear it up. I read the last line, the one about Tom making ordinary days feel chosen, and wondered how long I had confused being dependable with being impossible to lose. I folded the pages along their existing crease and put them in the cedar box with Tom's things. It was not where they belonged. The story had been written for strangers to read beside a photograph of us cutting cake. But I couldn't return it to the desk drawer either. The words had become evidence of something, though I wasn't sure whether it was my marriage or my willingness to package it. Downstairs, my answering machine blinked. I still owned an answering machine because Tom had distrusted any technology that could not sit heavily on furniture. Evan made fun of it whenever he visited, but he used it. His voice was already coming through the speaker when I reached the kitchen. Mom, I'm sorry about what I said. I know Dad wouldn't be ashamed of you. I was upset. Please call me. A pause. And I need to know if any packages were delivered there. The registry still has your address listed. The machine beeped. An apology with a tracking number. I laughed, then covered my mouth because the sound frightened me. There was a box on the back porch. I had seen it through the window earlier and assumed it was garden supplies I'd ordered. Instead, the label had Claire's name above my address. The box was large enough to contain a countertop appliance or a modest adult. I dragged it inside and left it beside the kitchen door. By 10, I had received calls from 3 relatives. Walter said, "This is a mess," in the tone of a man reporting weather over which I had authority. He asked whether Evan had apologized, whether Claire had always been that sensitive, and whether I truly intended to keep Tom's cufflinks from my own son. They belong to Evan, I said. Then I don't understand. I'm not giving them to him for the wedding. That sounds like keeping them. Temporarily. Helen, Tom would want him to wear them. Tom would have wanted an invitation. Walter was quiet. That's true, he said. But Tom isn't here. I am. He cleared his throat. If Evan finds a way to include you, I think you should go. Be gracious. Everybody's watching now. Was I supposed to be gracious when nobody was watching? I'm not taking sides. Then where are you standing? He said he had to check on Marcy's car. My cousin Laura called next. She was more direct. I can't believe they did that to you. Neither can I. Claire has always seemed very controlling. You met her once. Once was sufficient. Laura then spent 9 minutes explaining that I should give Evan the cufflinks, because otherwise Claire could portray me as controlling. By the end of the call, the only defense against being mistreated seemed to be cooperating so beautifully that my mistreatment became undeniable to neutral observers. The third call was from a number I didn't recognize. A woman named Paige introduced herself. From marketing? I asked. She paused. Yes. I shut my eyes. She wasn't calling about the wedding. She had ordered a gift from the registry and received a delivery notice showing my address. The store's system wouldn't let her redirect it without confirming with the recipient. It's here, I said, looking at the box. Oh, good. It's a mixer. Please don't tell Claire. I'll protect the surprise with my life. She said you'd be storing the gifts while they're on their honeymoon. She was mistaken. Another pause, longer this time. I'm sorry, Paige said. I can pick it up. It's not your problem. I live 15 minutes from you. You're a guest. You shouldn't have to deliver your own gift. I also shouldn't make the groom's mother run a distribution center. Her voice was light, but she knew. Everybody knew now. We agreed she would come after work. At noon, Diane texted. Lunch. Harbor Diner. 1 o'clock. We need to talk without wine. I arrived early and took the booth near the window. The Harbor Diner had no harbor. It overlooked a pharmacy parking lot and a drainage canal that held water during optimistic weather. Tom used to say the name was aspirational. Diane came in wearing navy scrubs beneath a cardigan. She sat across from me, put her phone on the table, then turned it face down. I'm sorry I hung up. I'm sorry I said you chose me because I'm safer to disappoint. You weren't wrong. I know, that's why I'm sorry. A waitress poured coffee without asking. Diane ordered a turkey club. I ordered soup, then changed to a cheeseburger because I was tired of behaving like a woman in distress. Diane watched the waitress leave. I'm going to the wedding, she said. I heard you yesterday. I need you to hear the rest. All right, I'm not going to represent you. I'm not going to confront Evan during the reception. I'm not going to glare at Claire's mother or leave an empty chair beside me for dramatic effect. I hadn't thought of the chair. You're welcome. She folded and unfolded the paper wrapper from her straw. I'm going because I love Evan. I held him before you did. You bring that up too often. You were unconscious. I had just delivered him, and I was there. I smiled despite myself. She continued, I also want to see the family. I paid for the room. I bought a dress that requires industrial undergarments. Those aren't noble reasons, but they're mine. Okay, and I am furious at him. I know, no, you keep acting like my attendance means I've decided what he did is acceptable. I haven't said that. You don't have to say everything, Helen. The waitress set our plates down. Diane waited until she left. You have a way of becoming very quiet and making everybody else provide the bad sentence, she said. What does that mean? It means when you want something, you wait for people to notice. When they don't, you do it yourself and remember forever that nobody offered. That's not fair. It's not completely unfair. I picked up my burger and set it down again. Diane leaned back. When Mom got sick, you took over everything. Somebody had to. I offered to help. You lived 40 minutes away and worked full time. So did you. You had just started at the dental office. I didn't want you risking your job. You didn't let me decide. Then, after she died, you told everyone you'd been alone. I was alone. You arranged it that way. The diner noise seemed to grow around us. Forks, coffee cups, an ice machine dropping cubes in the back. This is not the same thing, I said. No, Evan is wrong, completely wrong. But you asked me to make my own choice. And now you're punishing me because it's not yours. I'm trying not to. I know. Her voice softened, which somehow hurt more. I don't want to lose you over his wedding, she said. I don't want to lose you either, but you're going to be angry with me. Yes. Diane nodded. There was relief in admitting it. No gracious lie, no claim that attendance wouldn't matter. I can live with that, she said. Can you? I'll have to. We ate for a while. The burger was too salty, and the tomato shot out the back on my second bite. Diane pushed an extra napkin toward me without comment. What are you doing that weekend? She asked. Apparently, not brunch. I mean, during the ceremony, I haven't decided. Don't sit at home. That sounds like an order. It's sisterly interference. I might go to the motel on the coast, the one you and Tom liked. We only stayed there once. You talked about it for 38 years, because the bed collapsed. I know. Tom told everyone. We weren't doing anything. I didn't ask. You had the face. Diane laughed hard enough to cough. For a minute, we were ourselves again. When we left, she hugged me in the parking lot. I let her. Then I sat in my car and cried with my hands in my lap, not because I wanted her to stay away from the wedding, but because I had wanted her to want to. Paige arrived at 5:30 wearing black pants, bright red sneakers, and an expression of careful neutrality. I brought you something, she said. She held out a bottle of wine. You don't have to bribe me for your mixer. It's not a bribe. It's gratitude for not opening the box. I know what it is. That does take away some of the suspense. I invited her in while I found my scissors to cut the packing tape around the shipping label. She stood in the kitchen looking at Tom's photographs without staring. I'm sorry about the wedding, she said finally. I kept working at the label. Thank you. I didn't know. I assumed. I knew it was small. Claire said there were complicated family dynamics. There usually are when family is present. Paige shifted her weight. I probably shouldn't say this. That sentence has never prevented anything. She told us you hated formal events after your husband passed. She made it sound like attending would be painful for you. I stopped cutting. When? Months ago. When she explained why her mother was the only parent attending. Only parent. Not the bride's mother instead of the groom's. The only parent, as if I had died with Tom and simply continued answering email. Did Evan hear her say that? It was at dinner. He was there. Paige's eyes widened, realizing what she had handed me. I'm sorry. It isn't yours to apologize for. She picked up the mixer box. Before leaving, she said, for what it's worth, I'd rather have had the risotto. After she drove away, I listened to Evan's message again. I'm sorry about what I said, not what he had done, what he had said. I called him. He answered on the first ring. Mom? You told people I don't attend formal events because of your father. What? Claire's friends believe I chose not to come. There was a silence, then a door closing on his end. Who told you that? Is it true? It was just a way to avoid questions. You erased me and called it grief. No, we were trying to make it less awkward. For whom? You keep asking that like there's an answer you'll accept. There is. What? You. He exhaled. I looked at the empty space where the mixer had been. I need you to collect anything else sent here, I said. I'll put it on the porch. After today, change the registry address. Fine. I'm not storing your gifts. I said fine, and there will be no brunch. I got it. His voice had gone flat. I waited for him to return to the reason I had called. The lie, the apology, me. Instead, he said, Did Paige take the mixer? Yes. Claire's going to be upset, she knows. She already knew enough. Mom, please, just stop talking to people. I'm not going to protect you from the truth. No, he said quietly. You're going to make sure it costs as much as possible. Then he hung up, leaving me with the ugly suspicion that, for the first time, he might have said something partly true. I wanted to reject the accusation immediately. Instead, I stood in my kitchen and examined it. There was satisfaction in knowing Marcy had called them. Not joy, exactly, but the meaner cousin of relief. Evan and Claire had expected my silence to make their choice painless. Now the choice had entered other rooms without them, and some small, wounded part of me was glad. I didn't like that part. I also didn't confuse disliking it with having to rescue them. The next morning, I sent one message to the family thread. There will not be a Sunday brunch at my house. Please make whatever arrangements work for you. I'm not asking anyone to change their wedding plans or take sides, and I'm not discussing the guest list further. Walter responded with a thumbs up. Marcy responded with a red heart. Laura wrote, "We love you," followed by a second message that said, "Regardless of what certain people think," which somewhat weakened the part about not taking sides. I muted the conversation. Then I called the motel on the coast. A woman named Stephanie answered and asked what dates I needed. The first weekend in June. For a wedding? I looked at my calendar where I had written Evan and Claire in blue ink across Saturday. No, we still have 2 ocean-facing rooms, but there's a 2-night minimum. That's fine. Will it be 1 guest or 2? 1. I said it too quickly. Stephanie didn't notice. When she gave me the price, I nearly changed my mind. The motel was still modest, but Nostalgia had apparently received renovations and learned dynamic pricing. I booked it anyway. The confirmation arrived before I hung up. I printed it because some habits survive even when the people who teased you about them don't. Then I tucked the page beneath the calendar and spent the afternoon cleaning a house that was already clean. At 4, I opened the spare room closet and found Evan's old green duffel bag on the top shelf. He had taken it to summer camp, college, and the apartment where he lived before Claire. One zipper was broken, and his name was written inside in Tom's block handwriting. I was deciding whether to throw it away when the front door opened. Mom? Evan still had a key. I stepped into the hallway carrying the duffel. He stood just inside with a hand truck folded beneath one arm. He looked at the bag, then at me. Are you going somewhere? You're supposed to knock, I called. My phone is downstairs. I need to get the packages. They're on the back porch. There are supposed to be 4. 3 arrived. He glanced toward the kitchen. Can I check? For what? In case you missed one. I know how many boxes are on my porch. I didn't mean, you let yourself into my house. I always let myself in. That was true. The key had been given for emergencies after Tom died, but emergencies had gradually come to include borrowing my ladder and checking whether I had leftover pie. Evan lowered the hand truck. I'm sorry. I should have knocked. Yes. He waited. When I didn't smooth it over, he asked, What's the bag for? I found it in the closet. I thought I lost that. You haven't looked for it in 15 years. I can still recognize it. He took it from me and ran a thumb over the faded fabric. A small enamel pin remained near the handle, a red canoe with one chipped end. Dad wrote my name in this. I know. He opened the main pocket. The zipper caught halfway, just as it always had. You have to pull the fabric flat, I said. He did, and the zipper slid open. The ordinary ease of it nearly broke me. We had spent years knowing how to handle the same stubborn objects. Doors, drawers, the kitchen faucet that whined if you turned it too far. A family was partly a collection of tiny operating instructions nobody else would think to ask for. I'll take it, he said. Fine. He folded the duffel over his arm and looked toward the staircase. Are you going to the coast? I stiffened. Why? The motel confirmation is under the calendar. You were looking through my papers. I saw the logo. You and Dad used to talk about that place. I'm not required to remain home. I didn't say you were. No. You only sound surprised that I made a plan without checking whether you needed something. He leaned the hand truck against the wall. Can we not fight for 5 minutes? You came for packages. I came because I wanted to see you. With a hand truck, the 2 things can happen together. I went into the kitchen. He followed. 3 boxes stood beside the back door. One contained dishes, according to a helpful photograph on the carton. Another was labeled fragile in 7 places. The third had no clue beyond the weight. Evan didn't touch them. Claire and I had a bad night, he said. I filled the kettle. She thinks I'm not defending her enough. I think she made the email worse than it needed to be. The email. You know what I mean. The decision was fine. The email lacked warmth. I didn't say that. You keep placing the cruelty in the delivery because you help choose the contents. He sat at the kitchen table. I shouldn't have agreed to it, he said. The kettle was still empty in my hand. It was not an apology. Not quite. But it was the first sentence that reached beyond his tone, his anger, or what he had said about Tom. I set the kettle down. Why did you? He rubbed his forehead, caught himself, and lowered his hand. Claire was threatening to cancel the wedding. Because of me? Because of everything. The families, the size, Dad, feeling like I was trying to make it into something it wasn't. What was it? Our wedding. And what were you making it? He looked around the kitchen as if the answer lived in the cabinets. She said every decision became a negotiation with someone who wasn't there. Tom. Mostly. I wasn't in those conversations. No, but I would say things. Dad would have liked the inn. Dad hated formal dinners. Dad wore blue. Then Claire would think it came from you. Did you tell her it didn't? Sometimes. Other times? I was tired. I pulled out the chair opposite him. So you let her blame me. I didn't think of it like that. You didn't think of me at all. That's not true. Then tell me what you thought would happen. He stared at the tabletop. I thought you'd be hurt. The honesty was so clean it took my breath. And then, I thought you'd come around, meaning that we'd talk after. I'd explain. You'd be angry for a while, but eventually we'd be okay. Why? Because we always are. His voice broke on the last word. I looked at my son and understood the entire plan. He had not believed I was unimportant. He had believed my love was indestructible. Claire's had conditions he could see. Mine had always been presented as weather, sometimes unpleasant, always there tomorrow. You spent me, I said. What? You needed peace with Claire, so you spent the thing you thought you couldn't lose. He shook his head. I'm here telling you I was wrong. You're here for wedding gifts. I said I wanted to see you, and if I handed you the cufflinks, would that mean we're okay? He leaned back. I didn't ask. Not today. I want something of Dad with me. You want proof that the people who loved him approve. That's not fair. Maybe not. He stood and began stacking boxes on the hand truck. His movements were sharp, but his eyes were wet. At the back door, he said, Do you want the wedding to happen? Yes. That surprised him. I want you to marry Claire if marrying Claire is what you want, I said. I just don't want you calling surrender a choice. You've never liked her. I liked her enough to believe she'd tell me the truth. He pushed the hand truck onto the porch. I'm trying to fix this. Then stop asking what will make everybody quiet. He left with the boxes and the green duffel bag. An hour later, Diane called. You're on speaker, she said. I'm driving, so don't say anything that will make me crash. Take me off speaker. I'm alone. Then why announce it? I like professionalism. Her voice sounded wrong, too bright and too fast. What happened? Claire called me. I sat down. She wants me to arrive early Saturday, Diane said. There's apparently a chair in the front row on Evan's side, and she doesn't want it empty. I gripped the phone. Are you sure you're alone? Yes. What did you say? I asked why they didn't fill it with Paige. Diane laughed, but there was no humor in it. She also asked whether I had a good photograph of Tom. She said since you were holding back the family pictures, they thought I might help. I'm not holding them back. I know. What else? She wants me to stand with Evan while the photographer takes family portraits. The substitute mother, the representative. Diane's turn signal clicked over the line. I told her no. To the photograph, to all of it. I waited. I'm not going, she said. Relief came first. Hot, immediate, shameful. Then I heard her breathing. Diane. She said if I was coming with hostile energy, it might be better to reconsider. So I reconsidered. I'm sorry. No, you're not. She was right and wrong and too hurt for the difference to matter. I'm sorry it cost you, I said. Her breath caught. I called the inn, she continued. The room is non-refundable. Of course it is. And the dress is hideous. You said it required industrial support. Nothing that reinforced should also have flowers. I smiled, pressing my fingers to my eyes. Come to the coast with me, I said. The line went quiet except for the sound of her car. Are you asking because you want me there? She said. Or because you feel guilty? Both. Good answer. I'm trying something new. She sniffed. Send me the motel information. After we hung up, I moved the confirmation from beneath the calendar and placed it on the refrigerator. Saturday still held Evan's and Claire's names in blue ink. I didn't cross them out. I just wrote Diane beside mine. Diane arrived Friday afternoon with 2 suitcases, a garment bag, and enough snacks to survive a bridge collapse. "You own luggage," I said. "I'm aware." "Then why is one bag from the grocery store?" "Those are road provisions. The motel is 2 hours away. History is full of people who thought they had 2 hours. She carried everything into my hallway. The garment bag still held the wedding dress. I touched the zipper. "Why did you bring this? I'm returning it Monday. I'm afraid if I leave it home, I'll decide to wear it somewhere." "Where would you wear a formal floral dress?" "Exactly." She hung it on the hall tree. The bag slowly rotated until the outline of the skirt faced us like a body awaiting identification. Diane had told the family she would not attend. She did not explain why in the group thread, but Marcy already knew enough to build the rest from smoke. By Thursday, Walter had called Diane impulsive, Laura had called her brave, and Uncle Ray, who had not spoken to either of us in 11 months, sent a long message about forgiveness that appeared to have been copied from a church bulletin. Evan called me once. I didn't answer because I was in the shower. By the time I saw the missed call, he had left no message. I did not call back. There are choices that feel mature only because they are quiet. Claire sent Diane a text saying, "I'm sorry you've decided to add to the hurt around what should be a joyful weekend." Diane printed it. "Why?" I asked. "In case my phone explodes. You own a smartphone, a landline, an answering machine at work, and apparently a printer powered by spite. Preparedness is not spite." She folded the paper into her purse. We ate dinner at my kitchen table. Diane had brought chicken salad, but neither of us wanted it, so we ordered pizza. I poured wine. She requested soda. "I need a clear head," she said. "For what?" "Not calling anyone. That does take discipline." She pointed at me with a slice of pepperoni. "You joke, but I composed 7 responses to Claire. Any good?" One was just a photograph of an empty chair. I laughed so hard I had to put my pizza down. Then the doorbell rang. We both stopped. A narrow box stood on the porch. No delivery person in sight. Claire's name. My address. I photographed the label and sent the picture to Evan. "Last package. It will remain on the porch tonight. Please collect it." He responded almost immediately. "We're at the rehearsal dinner." Of course they were. Somewhere people were raising glasses to family while his mother kept watch over a cardboard rectangle in the dark. I typed, "Then collect it in the morning." His reply came after several minutes. "Can you please bring it inside?" "Rain is expected." I looked at the clear sky. Then I carried the box into the hallway because, once again, the innocent object was not responsible. Diane watched from the kitchen. "Don't say it," I told her. I said nothing. Your silence has elbows. We went to bed early. I slept until 3:13, then woke with my heart racing. For several seconds, I didn't know why. The room was dark except for the blue digits of the clock. The house made its usual sounds, the refrigerator humming below, pipes settling, a branch tapping the siding near the guest room. Tomorrow, my son would get married. Today, technically. The ceremony was at 4. I put on my robe and went downstairs. The wedding package was gone. The front door was locked. I checked the back porch. Nothing. Then I saw Evan's key on the kitchen table. It lay beside the notepad, separated from his ring. I picked it up. He must have come inside while we slept. He had used the key one last time, taken the package, and left the key behind without waking me. No note, no explanation. I sat at the table with the key in my palm. I had been planning to ask for it. Not yet, perhaps, but soon. He had understood before I said the words. That should have felt like respect. Instead, it felt like another door closing quietly enough that neither of us had to admit who pushed it. Diane found me there at 6. She wore plaid pajamas and one sock. "Coffee?" she asked. I showed her the key. She pulled out the chair across from me. "Did he come in?" "Sometime after we went to bed." "That's unsettling." He returned it. Still unsettling. I placed the key in the junk drawer between a tape measure and 3 dead batteries. Diane reached across the table. Her fingers rested near mine but did not touch. "Do you want to stay home?" "No." Do you want to drive to the inn and interrupt the ceremony? No. Do you want me to ask less theatrical questions? Eventually. We left at 8. The sky stayed overcast and the highway unrolled beneath a low ceiling of clouds. Diane controlled the music because she claimed my playlists were emotionally irresponsible. She chose old soul songs, then skipped any track that mentioned weddings, mothers, sons, betrayal, forgiveness, or going home. By the 4th song, she turned the radio off. "This is impossible," she said. "We could listen to the weather. That feels symbolic." We drove in silence. At a rest area halfway to the coast, Diane bought coffee and a refrigerator magnet shaped like a lighthouse. "You don't own a magnetic refrigerator," I said. "It's a gift for you. I don't want it. Then it's perfect for your son." She regretted the joke immediately. "I'm sorry. It was funny. Was it?" "A little." She handed me the coffee. The motel looked smaller than I remembered. 2 stories of pale blue siding faced the ocean across a narrow road. The sign still showed a gull flying over the words, "Sea Breeze," though the gull had lost most of one wing to rust. Stephanie at the desk was younger than her voice had sounded. She wore round glasses and a sweatshirt with the motel logo. "2 guests?" she asked. "2," I said. Diane leaned toward her. "We're not here for a wedding." Stephanie glanced at me, then back at Diane. "Okay. She asks everyone," I said. "I really don't." Our room had 2 beds, an electric fireplace, and a view of the ocean if we stood near the window and looked past the seafood restaurant's roof. Diane tested both mattresses by sitting heavily on each. "This one seems structurally sound. The original bed collapsed because a leg was cracked. Your story has evolved. Tom's version evolved. His was better. We unpacked nothing." At 11, Diane suggested the boardwalk. At 11:15, rain began hitting the window sideways. We sat in the seafood restaurant and ate clam chowder while the ocean disappeared behind fog. My phone stayed face down beside my spoon. It buzzed 4 times. "I'm not looking," I said. I didn't ask. "You looked at it." "I looked toward it." "You have expressive neck muscles." The first message was from Marcy. "Thinking of you today." The second was Laura. "You're doing the right thing." The third was Walter. Still time for people to come to their senses. I didn't know whether he meant me or Evan. The 4th was from Evan. "Can we talk?" My thumb hovered over his name. Diane watched the rain. I wrote, "I'm away from home. I hope today is everything you want it to be." He did not respond. After lunch, the rain softened to a mist. We walked along the beach wearing motel umbrellas badly. Wind turned mine inside out before we reached the water. Diane laughed. "Don't just stand there," I said. "I'm trying to remember the last time you looked that dignified." I wrestled the umbrella closed and left it beside a driftwood log. The beach was nearly empty. A man in a red coat walked far ahead of us with a gray dog. 2 women searched the wet sand for shells. The ocean rolled in with no interest in our schedule. My coat felt heavy on one side. I put my hand into the pocket and touched velvet, the cufflink case. I stopped walking. "What?" Diane asked. I pulled it out. The blue velvet was worn pale at the corners. I must have slipped it into my coat after taking the motel confirmation from the bedroom. I didn't remember doing it. Diane opened the case. The silver caught what little light the sky offered. "Are these Tom's?" I nodded. "Are you going to give them to Evan?" "Not today." She handed the case back. We found a dry patch beneath the boardwalk and sat on a wooden beam. The ceremony would begin in less than an hour. I could see the inn in my mind, although I had never visited. The lake, the muted flowers, the front row chair Diane had been asked to fill. Evan adjusting cuffs with nothing in them. Claire counting roses. "I should have given them to him," I said. Diane didn't answer right away. "Do you think so?" "I don't know." "That's different. He's getting married without his father. He was doing that either way. He wanted something of Tom's, and you wanted something of Evan's." I looked at her. "To see him," she said. "You wanted to see him." My phone buzzed inside my coat. I took it out. Evan had written, "A chair opened up. If you leave now, you can still make the ceremony. Claire is willing to move forward as long as nobody makes this into a scene." The waves struck the shore and pulled back, carrying a fringe of foam. A chair had opened up. Not a change of heart. Not an apology. A seating adjustment. Diane read the message over my arm. "Well," she said quietly. I checked the time. If I drove too fast and wore the clothes I had on, I might arrive during the vows. Wet hair, sandy shoes, no gift. I imagined Evan seeing me at the back, relief first, then worry about what I might say. "I could go," I said. "Yes," he asked. He offered a chair. "He's my son." "Yes." Diane didn't tell me what to do. That was her gift to me. I typed 3 different replies. "Thank you, but no. I wish you had wanted me there before people noticed I was missing. I love you. I cannot do this." I deleted all of them. Then I turned off the phone. At 4, the rain stopped. Diane and I walked to the edge of the water. I kept the cufflinks in my coat pocket and wrapped my fingers around the case while somewhere inland, my son promised to love someone in front of the people they had chosen. The grief surprised me with its size. I had thought I was grieving a ceremony. One afternoon, a photograph I would never be in. But standing on that cold beach, I understood I was grieving the version of Evan, who had always looked for me in a room. The man I raised still existed. He simply knew where I was now and had decided my absence was easier. Diane slipped her arm through mine. Neither of us spoke until the hour had passed. Back at the motel, I turned on my phone. There were 2 photographs in the family thread. Claire and Evan beneath an arch of white roses. Judith stood in the front row. The chair beside her was empty. Evan looked handsome, older, and terribly tired. Then a private message appeared from him. "I guess I have my answer." I sat on the edge of the motel bed with Tom's cufflinks in my hand. For once, I did not hurry to give my son a different one. Diane sat beside me without asking to see the message. She had become very good at reading my face, though she would have claimed 31 years of dentistry gave her an unfair advantage. "What did he say?" I handed her the phone. She read it once, then placed the phone face down on the bedspread. "He wanted you to rescue him," she said. "He invited me." 40 minutes before the ceremony, he probably had people asking questions. That's not an invitation. That's crowd control with a chair. I rubbed the velvet case between my palms. I should answer, then answer. What do I say? The truth. Which one? Diane looked toward the dark window. Our reflection floated over the glass. 2 older women on the edge of separate beds, still wearing damp clothes, sharing an ice bucket full of vending machine ginger ale. "That you love him," she said. "And that love is not the same as arriving whenever he finally panics." I picked up the phone. "I love you. Today wasn't an answer to whether I love you. I hope you and Claire have a peaceful trip. We can speak when you're home." I read it aloud. Diane nodded. "Send that. It sounds formal. You're wearing sand in your socks. The formality balances you." I sent it. Evan read the message immediately. No reply came. We ordered dinner from the seafood restaurant downstairs and ate it in the room because neither of us wanted to be around people dressed for Saturday night. Diane had fried shrimp. I had grilled cheese and tomato soup, which arrived beneath a silver dome as if it had accomplished something. At 7:30, the family thread began filling with photographs. Claire walking beside Judith down a gravel path. Evan standing beneath the rose arch with his best man, both of them looking towards something outside the frame. The lake behind the inn, silver under the clearing sky. A place setting with a folded napkin and a card bearing Marcy's name. I studied every picture for signs of disaster, then hated myself for it. Claire looked beautiful, not merely polished, happy. For one captured second, turning toward Evan after the vows, her whole face was open. No edges, no calculation. He was laughing at something she had said. I wanted the photograph to hurt less than it did. Diane leaned over my shoulder. Her dress is lovely. Yes, you can say that. I did. She can be wrong and have a lovely dress. I know. The next photograph showed the front row. Judith on one side, an empty chair beside the aisle. Someone had placed a small spray of eucalyptus on it. I enlarged the image. Do you think that was for Tom? I asked. Diane took the phone. Maybe. Or for me. Don't. What? Don't assign meaning to decorative foliage. Everything in this wedding has meaning. That's the problem. She handed the phone back. At 8:15, Marcy called Diane instead of me. Diane put her on speaker after receiving permission from all involved, which took longer than necessary. It was a beautiful ceremony, Marcy said. Her voice was low and rushed, very tasteful. Tasteful was the word people used when beauty had failed to relax them. How's the reception? Diane asked. Dinner just ended. Walter has found a bartender willing to discuss baseball, so I may never see him again. Did anyone ask about us? I said. Marcy exhaled. A few people. What were they told? That there had been a misunderstanding and you decided not to come. Diane's head snapped toward the phone. A misunderstanding? I didn't say it. Who did? Claire, mostly. Evan said he didn't want to talk about it. What kind of misunderstanding? She said the invitation list had been revised and feelings were hurt. Then she said they offered to make room, but you had already made other plans. There it was, accurate enough to survive, false enough to erase the order in which everything happened. Did you correct her? Diane asked. I said it was more complicated. So no. I was standing beside the cake, Diane. Dangerous territory. I wasn't going to start a scene at their reception. I'm not asking you to overturn a table. One clear sentence would have done it. Marcy's voice hardened. I am not responsible for fixing what Evan did. No, I said. You aren't. Diane looked at me. Marcy went quiet. Helen, I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me. There's something else. Of course there was. Evan didn't wear Tom's cufflinks. I know. Walter noticed. Walter notices mayonnaise at 40 feet. He asked Evan about them. I sat straighter. What did Evan say? That he forgot them. The lie was almost kind. He could have said, I refused. He could have placed the missing silver beside my missing chair and let everyone draw the intended picture. Instead, he had carried that one himself. Marcy continued. Claire got upset when people kept asking where you were. She disappeared for 20 minutes before dinner. Judith went with her. I pictured a bathroom at the inn. Claire locked inside a stall, Judith standing at the mirror. Or perhaps the roles reversed. Judith crying, Claire telling her to fix her lipstick. Is Evan okay? I asked. Diane closed her eyes. He's quiet, Marcy said. But he got married. Maybe let him be married tonight. I wasn't planning to call. I didn't mean, yes, you did. After we hung up, Diane walked to the ice machine. She returned with an empty bucket. I forgot the ice, she said. We laughed until neither of us could explain why. The next morning, we ate rubbery eggs in the motel lobby while couples checked out around us. A man in golf clothes complained that the coffee was weak. An older woman asked Stephanie whether the Ocean View surcharge could be refunded because of yesterday's fog. Life continued with insulting efficiency. At 9, Walter posted that everyone should meet at a pancake restaurant near the highway. No one mentioned the brunch that had once existed at my house. Diane watched the thread. They're going to breakfast, she said. I can read. Do you wish we were there? Yes. Me too. That honesty made the lobby feel colder. I had wanted the family to refuse the wedding in solidarity. I had also wanted nobody to suffer. I had wanted Claire to feel the consequence without crying, Evan to understand without losing his day, Diane to choose me without giving anything up, and myself to hold a boundary without feeling mean. There was no version in which everyone paid with imaginary money. We checked out at 10. Before leaving, I walked alone to the beach. I opened the velvet case and held one cuff link up to the gray light. The silver was warmer from my pocket. Tom would have wanted Evan to wear them. Walter was right about that. Tom also would have driven to the inn, argued with the front desk, and made matters worse in 5 directions. Death had made him very reasonable in everyone's memory. I put the cufflinks away. On the drive home, Diane slept with her mouth open. I did not photograph her, though the temptation improved my mood. My house looked unchanged, the empty dining table, the green leaf beneath the chair where I had missed it, Evan's key in the junk drawer, his old bedroom without the wedding boxes. I unpacked, washed our coffee cups, and put the velvet case back in the cedar box. The answering machine blinked twice. The first message was from Laura, asking me to call when I got home. The second was Evan. Mom, we're leaving for the airport. I got your message. Behind him, I heard an announcement and the rolling clatter of luggage. I'm not ready to talk. I just wanted you to know we got married and we're okay. Claire's upset about how everything happened. I am too. He paused. I wish you'd come. Another pause. We'll be back next Sunday. The machine beeped. I replayed the message. He wished I had come. Not that he had invited me. Not that he had told the truth. The burden still traveled in my direction. Even so, I stood with my finger on the machine until the message played a third time. They spent their honeymoon in Puerto Rico. I knew because Claire posted photographs. I did not follow her, but relatives kept sending screenshots with captions like "glad they're smiling" and "looks crowded." In one picture, Evan stood beside a bright blue wall, wearing the green shirt I gave him at Christmas. In another, Claire held a drink inside a hollowed pineapple while he looked toward the ocean. I sent no message. On Sunday afternoon, the day they returned, I made chicken soup. Habit moved faster than judgment. By the time I realized I was doing it, onions were softening in butter and Tom's old stock pot sat on the stove. I considered pouring everything out. Instead, I finished the soup and froze half. Evan called at 6. We landed, he said. How was the trip? Good. Hot. I assume Puerto Rico knew you were coming. He laughed softly. The sound went through me. We brought you something, he said. You didn't have to. It's just coffee. Thank you. Can we stop by? I looked at the stock pot. Tonight? Yeah. We're already on the highway. Is Claire with you? She's in the car. I heard what he was asking, not whether we could talk, whether we could re-enter the old arrangement through my kitchen. Not tonight, I said. Silence. We'll only be 10 minutes. I'm tired. Okay. You can bring it another time. Sure. He sounded wounded, and I had to grip the counter to keep from fixing it. Welcome home, I said. Thanks. After we hung up, I ladled soup into one bowl. At 7:20, headlights swept across my front window. A car slowed, then continued down the street. I couldn't tell whether it was Evan. On Wednesday, he texted a photograph of a cafe where Tom used to order pancakes. Remember Dad refusing to pay extra for real maple syrup? I stared at the image. I remembered. Tom had carried a tiny bottle in his coat pocket for 3 winters after that. I wrote, yes. Evan replied with a laughing face. Then, can I come for dinner Sunday? No mention of Claire. No mention of the wedding. I answered, we can meet for coffee Saturday morning. 3 dots appeared. Why coffee? Because I'm not ready to return to normal. His response took 6 minutes. I thought you said we could talk when I got home. We can. At your house? No. Harbor Cafe at 10. He agreed. Saturday morning, he arrived 11 minutes late, carrying a paper bag of Puerto Rican coffee and wearing Tom's watch. The watch had not come from the cedar box. Evan had owned it since the funeral and rarely wore it because the band pinched. He placed the coffee between us. For you. Thank you. He sat across from me, turning his wrist so the watch face caught the light. You look nice, I said. You too. Neither of us had ever sounded so much like strangers. A server poured coffee. Evan added cream, stirred, and watched the spoon move. Finally, he said, Are you going to punish me forever? I looked at the son who had expected one breakfast to bridge the distance he spent months building. No, I said, but I'm not going to pretend forgiveness happened while you were on vacation. Evan stopped stirring. The spoon rested against the cup with a small metallic click. I didn't think forgiveness happened, he said. Then what did you think? That maybe you'd be willing to have a conversation without setting rules around it. This is a coffee shop, not a hostage negotiation. You told me where and when I was allowed to see you. I suggested coffee. You agreed, because the alternative was nothing. The alternative was waiting. For what? For both of us to be able to speak without turning every sentence into a weapon. He leaned back. You seem pretty comfortable with weapons. I looked at Tom's watch on his wrist. Evan noticed. I wore it at the wedding, he said. I wondered. I needed something of Dad's. I understand. Do you? Yes. The answer disappointed him. He had been prepared for an argument about the cufflinks. Understanding gave him nowhere to place it. The server returned with menus. I ordered toast and eggs. Evan said he wasn't hungry, then ordered pancakes after she left and caught us both noticing. What? He said. Nothing. No, say it. You always order pancakes when you aren't hungry. He looked toward the window. Dad did too. Your father ordered pancakes because he considered breakfast a competition. A smile appeared and vanished. Did you look at the wedding pictures? He asked. Some. It was beautiful. I know. Claire looked beautiful. She did. We had a good time. I'm glad. He rubbed the edge of his napkin between two fingers. People kept asking where you were. So I heard. It made everything awkward. The server set down our plates. Evan waited until she was gone. Claire spent half the reception feeling like everybody was judging her. Were they? Some of them. I buttered my toast. And you're okay with that? He asked. No, you're not exactly devastated. I was a little occupied. You told Marcy. You knew it would spread. She asked why there wasn't a brunch. You could have waited. We've done this part. No, you've said your part. That's different. I put down the knife. All right, tell me yours. He inhaled slowly. I know we handled it badly. I know I should have told you. But once the whole family knew, there was no way to fix it without the wedding becoming a referendum on Claire. You could have invited me. She wasn't comfortable with that. Then there was no way to fix it while preserving everything Claire wanted. Why is her comfort meaningless to you? It isn't. You act like she woke up and decided to hurt you. I don't know what morning she decided. She was overwhelmed. So was I. She felt like you hated her. I attended bridal appointments, found 20 addresses, assembled half her guest bags, stored her flowers and gifts, and wrote the story of my marriage for her display. You also made comments every time she asked for something. I should have said no more often. We agree. That's not what I'm saying. I know. You're saying my help doesn't count because I wasn't cheerful enough. You see everything in the worst possible way. No, Evan, I saw it in the best possible way for months. That's how we got here. He cut into his pancakes, though he hadn't added syrup. What do you want from me? He asked. Honesty. I'm being honest. You're presenting the wedding as something that happened to you. I said I was wrong. You said you handled it badly. What's the difference? Handling is how you sent the email. Wrong is agreeing that I could be excluded, used, and lied about because you trusted me to forgive whatever you did. His fork stayed against the plate. I continued before I lost my nerve. I don't need you to decide Claire is evil. I don't think she is. I don't need you to regret getting married. I hope you don't. But I need you to stop describing your choices as weather. I chose my wife. Yes. That's what a husband is supposed to do. Then own the choice. Don't tell me the guest list got small or Claire got anxious or the venue sent the wrong email. Say you knew I would be hurt and decided her comfort mattered more. He looked down. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. I knew you'd be hurt. The words were the same ones he had used in my kitchen, but this time he did not follow them with an expectation that I would come around. I decided to do it anyway, he said. A painful pressure gathered behind my ribs. Thank you, I said. His head came up. That's it? No. But it's true. He pushed his plate away. Can we go back to dinners eventually? I don't know. What am I supposed to do in the meantime? Live your life. That's cold. It isn't meant to be. You're my mother. Yes, You can't just reduce our relationship to coffee appointments. I can change how much access you have to me. Because I didn't give you access to the wedding. Because you believe access is something I owe no matter how you treat me." He laughed once, bitterly. "Claire said you'd use the right language to make punishment sound healthy. Claire uses the same language to explain why I didn't deserve a chair. So she's wrong when she sets boundaries, but you're right. Claire's boundary was that I could not attend her wedding. Mine is that I will not pretend that had no effect on our relationship. What effect is allowed? How much am I supposed to lose? I don't know yet." His face changed at that. For the first time, he seemed to understand that there was no preset sentence he could serve and complete. I wasn't making him suffer for 3 breakfasts or 6 missed Sundays. Something had broken, and repair would depend on what we built, not how long we waited. He reached for the bill when it came. "I've got it," I said. "Mom, I can buy my own eggs. You bought every meal I ate for 20 years. Then you're ahead." He paid anyway. Outside, the morning had turned warm. People carried shopping bags along the sidewalk. A woman at the corner was arguing into her phone about patio furniture. Evan stood beside his car. "Can I have Dad's cufflinks now?" "Yes." His surprise hurt. "I'll bring them to you," I said. "You don't have to. They belong to you. I thought you said after the wedding." "It's after." He looked ashamed, then defensive about looking ashamed. "I'll stop by tomorrow. I'll bring them." "So I still can't come to the house?" "Not tomorrow." He nodded. I delivered the cufflinks to his apartment in a plain paper bag. Claire's car wasn't there. Evan met me in the lobby wearing gym shorts and an old college shirt. He opened the velvet case, touched each piece, and closed it. "Do you want to come up?" he asked. "No, thank you. She's at the grocery store." "That isn't why." His eyes moved toward the elevator. "She thinks you're trying to separate us," he said. "I hope your marriage is happy." "That's not the same as wanting it to work. I want it to work if the two of you can be kind inside it. Every marriage has problems. I know more about that than you think." He held the paper bag against his chest. "Dad and I had 6 months when we could barely speak," I said. "He slept in the den." Evan stared at me. "When?" "After his mother died." "I don't remember that. You weren't living at home. You never told me. It wasn't your marriage. Did you almost divorce?" I considered it. So did he. "What stopped you?" "Nothing dramatic. We got tired of being right in separate rooms." The elevator opened behind him. I stepped back. "Marriage isn't protected by pretending every outside person is the threat," I said. "Sometimes the danger is the bargain you're making with each other." The elevator doors closed before he answered. By the time the Puerto Rican coffee was gone, Evan had tried several versions of normal. He sent photographs of food he cooked badly. He texted me when the insurance company transferred him to a different territory. He invited me to a baseball game, then made it sound casual when I declined. He asked how to remove a red wine stain from their rug and reacted with a thumbs up when I sent a link instead of driving over. On Sundays, I cooked for 2 instead of 4. Diane came often enough to complain that she was being fattened as part of a revenge strategy. She and Marcy still spoke, but less easily. Walter had stopped sending jokes. The family had not split into teams so much as rearranged around discomfort. No one apologized to Diane for the front row request. She returned the floral dress and used the refund to buy a blue armchair she didn't need. "It represents freedom," she told me. "It represents poor lumbar support." We were getting better. Evan and I met twice more for coffee. Both times he arrived with questions disguised as memories. Did I remember the camping trip when Tom backed the car into a tree? What was the name of the restaurant where we celebrated his first job? Had Tom ever been afraid to marry me? The last question came in October while rain traced the cafe window. "Yes," I said. Evan looked startled. "He told you that. The night before the wedding. What did you say?" "That I was afraid too." "And then?" "We got married afraid." He stared into his cup. "Claire and I are fighting a lot," he said. There it was. the reason beneath the memories. I'm sorry. She thinks I blame her for everything with you. Do you? Sometimes. That won't help. She was the one who didn't want you there. You agreed. I know. The old words arrived with less heat now, but they had not changed shape. He leaned forward. She says I let you become a third person in our marriage. What do you think? I think she uses you whenever she doesn't want to talk about us. I watched him carefully. And what do you use me for? His face hardened. I came here because I needed someone to talk to. I am talking to you. No, you're analyzing me. I'm asking whether you came to repair things with your mother or recruit someone against your wife. He stood so quickly the table shook. Forget it. Evan, you said we could meet. We can. But only if I perform the right kind of remorse. That isn't what I said. You're enjoying this. The accusation was quieter than before, which made it sharper. I'm not. You got exactly what you wanted. Claire and I are miserable. The family thinks she's a monster. And now you can sit here pretending you're above it. He walked out into the rain without his coat buttoned. I did not follow. That evening, Claire called. I watched her name until the ringing stopped. She called again 10 minutes later. When I answered, she said, I need you to stop having private conversations with my husband about our marriage. I agree. Silence. What? I told him I won't be used as a refuge from you. That's convenient. It's also true. He came home furious. He left furious. What did you say to him? I asked why he came to me. He came because you've been freezing him out for 4 months. I've met him 3 times. For coffee. In public. Like he's a parole officer. Despite myself, I smiled. Claire heard it. You think this is funny? No. You want him to choose you. If he leaves you because I serve better coffee than he does, your problems are larger than me. Her breath caught. Then, for the first time since I had known her, Claire sounded tired rather than controlled. We can't keep doing this, she said. No, I agreed. You can't. She hung up. 2 nights later, at almost 9, someone knocked on my front door. Not the bell. 3 quiet taps. Claire stood on the porch alone, wearing no coat, her eyes swollen and her wedding ring turned inward toward her palm. I'm not here to apologize, she said. I didn't think you were. She looked past me into the house. Can I come in? I opened the door. Claire stepped into the hallway and looked at the empty hook where Evan's key used to hang before I moved it to the junk drawer. I closed the door. Coffee? I asked. No. Water? No. Wine? She almost smiled. Definitely not. She followed me into the kitchen. Her hair was pulled into a low knot that had begun coming loose. I had never seen her without eyeliner. It made her look younger and more severe at the same time. I sat at the table. Claire remained standing. Evan told me what you said, she began. He's told both of us many things, that I use you whenever I don't want to talk about our marriage. Do you? Yes. The answer stopped me. She pulled out a chair but did not sit. You want honesty. Fine. You're useful. I'm beginning to regret offering coffee. When he's angry with me, I can say it's because of you. When he pulls away, I can say he's running back to you. When I don't trust him, I can tell myself it's because you taught him to need your approval. I didn't teach him that, I know. She sat. For several seconds, the refrigerator supplied all the sound. Why are you here? I asked. Because Evan is at Mike's apartment telling him I destroyed his family. Mike is his best man. I'm aware. He might have opinions. Everybody has opinions. Your family manufactured extras. I let that pass. Claire turned her wedding ring around her finger. Evan says you told him I use you to avoid talking about us. I said something similar. Then he came home and announced that our real problem was the bargain we'd made with each other. I recognized my own sentence and wished I didn't. He shouldn't have quoted me. He didn't. He presented it as an insight he had while driving. That sounds like Evan. I told him it sounded like you. That also sounds like Evan. Claire's mouth tightened. He said if I could admit we were wrong about the wedding, maybe you would stop punishing him. This visit is becoming less mysterious. I'm not here to ask you to forgive him. Good. I'm here because I'm tired of being the only person willing to say what the problem is. Which is? There have always been 3 people in my relationship. I looked toward Tom's chair, then back at her. You mean me, you and his father. That's 4. You know what I mean. I do. She leaned forward. Every fear came here. Every doubt, every bad day, every decision he didn't want to make. Sometimes he told you. Sometimes he just sat in this kitchen until you gave him food and made whatever he was avoiding seem manageable. And that threatened you. It exhausted me. He leaned on me too much, I said. Claire's eyes narrowed, searching for the trap. There isn't one, I told her. I know he did. Then why did you keep letting him? Because I loved being needed. The sentence surprised me as much as it did her. I folded my hands on the table. After Tom died, people stopped asking things of me. I continued. Not forever. Just long enough for me to notice how quiet the house could be. Evan still came. I told myself I was giving him room to grieve. Sometimes I was. Other times I was helping him avoid growing up because it gave me something familiar to do. Claire sat back. That doesn't make what you did all right, I said. I didn't say it did. You made me the punishment for his weakness. I wanted him to choose. He chose you, not at first. Meaning? The first time I said I didn't want you at the wedding, he refused. I kept my face still. Claire looked down at her ring. He said it was unthinkable, that his mother had to be there. We fought for 3 days. When was this? February, before the invitations, before the paper samples, before my dining room became a staging area. What changed? I told him I wasn't sure I could marry someone who never made me feel first, and he offered me. I didn't ask him to use that word. You didn't have to. Her eyes lifted. He said keeping the wedding small would solve it. He said you'd be hurt, but you'd forgive him. I know. He made it sound like the kindest option. For whom? For us. There was shame in her face, but not surrender. And you accepted, I said. Yes. Why? Because I wanted proof. There it was. Smaller and uglier than strategy. Human enough to hurt. Proof that he loved you. Proof that when it mattered, he wouldn't run here and let you tell him what he really felt. So you required him to do something he couldn't tell me about. Claire closed her eyes. When you say it that way, it is that way. I know. You could have required him to make his own decisions. You could have told him to stop bringing our conversations into your relationship. You could have refused to marry him until he learned to speak honestly. And you could have told him to go home instead of feeding him soup. Yes. She opened her eyes. The agreement unsettled both of us. But humiliating me didn't make him stronger, I said. It made him cruel on your behalf. That isn't proof of love. He didn't think it was cruel. That's worse. Claire rubbed beneath one eye with the heel of her hand. You think I'm a terrible person. I think you wanted a guarantee no marriage can give you. My father chose his second wife over me. You weren't his wife. That didn't stop her from treating me like competition. Then you knew what this felt like. The words landed harder than I intended. Claire stood and walked to the sink. For a moment, I thought she might leave. Instead, she looked out at the dark yard. My mother says I recreate every rejection early so I can control the timing, she said. She told me something similar. Claire turned. When? When she collected the centerpiece. She had no right to discuss me with you. She discussed herself. That's what she calls it? There were years inside that sentence. I went to the cabinet and took out 2 glasses of water. Claire accepted one this time. She drank half while standing. I hated that empty chair, she said. I didn't ask which one. Every time I looked at it, someone else was looking at it too. I told the coordinator to remove it, but Judith said that would make things worse. Your mother was right. She enjoyed being right. She usually does. You've met her 4 times. It was sufficient. Claire gave a tired laugh. Then her face folded, not dramatically. Her mouth simply lost its shape, and she gripped the glass with both hands. I got exactly what I wanted, she said. He chose me, and now every time he looks at me, I can see what it cost. I did not get up to comfort her. I also did not enjoy it. What do you want me to say? I asked. I don't know. I hope your marriage survives. She wiped her face. Do you? Yes. But survival is not the same as staying in the same apartment. Her hand moved protectively toward her ring. We're separating for a while, she said. I waited. I'm staying with Judith. Evan is staying with Mike. Is that why you came? Partly. What's the other part? I want you not to take him in. My spine stiffened. Evan does not need you to arrange his relationship with me. He'll come here. That will be his choice. And yours. Yes. Claire set the water glass down. If you let him move back into this house, he'll turn our marriage into something that happened to him. You'll feed him, tell him I'm damaged, and he'll never have to ask what he did. You think you know me very well. I know how he uses you, and I know how you use me. She nodded. I walked her to the front door. I won't let him move in, I said. Relief crossed her face. Not for you, I added, and not to save your marriage, because I agree he has to face his own life. Thank you. Don't. She put her hand on the doorknob. I am sorry about the email, she said. Not the guest list? Her jaw tightened. I'm not ready to lie just because the truth sounds bad. Then don't. She opened the door. On the porch, she turned back. That thing you said, about a man proving love through cruelty. Yes? Maybe he proved he was weak. Those aren't opposites. She left. Evan called before midnight. Did Claire come to your house? Yes. What did she say? That's between Claire and me. She's my wife. Then ask her. She told me you agreed I shouldn't stay with you. I did. He went silent. I stood in the kitchen where Claire's water glass remained beside mine. I wasn't asking to move in, he said. Good. But if I did? No. His breath sharpened. So now you're on her side. I'm not on either side. She's leaving me. She's taking space. She went to my mother and convinced you not to help me. She didn't convince me. You always said I had a home there. You have a mother here. You do not have a place to hide from your marriage. Where am I supposed to go? You're already at Mike's. I can't stay indefinitely. Then rent somewhere. That easy? No. Possible. He laughed bitterly. I hope this boundary feels worth it. I hope you stop believing everyone who loves you should absorb whatever you can't face. He hung up. The following Sunday, I cooked chicken soup again. This time, I gave half to Diane and froze the rest without waiting for headlights. Evan did not contact me for 6 weeks. The first frost came. I brought the porch plants inside and found the last curl of green wedding ribbon beneath the radiator. I threw it away. Diane and I spent Thanksgiving with Marcy and Walter. The gathering was polite in the careful way of people crossing ice. Evan went to Mike's family. Claire stayed with Judith. No one said their names until Walter asked whether I wanted dark meat or white and accidentally called me Claire. By January, I knew through Evan himself, not Marcy, not Judith, that he and Claire were attending counseling separately. His email was 4 sentences long. I'm in an apartment near work. Claire and I are still separated. I started seeing someone to work on my own part in this. You don't have to respond, so I didn't. Then I reconsidered. I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. He replied, Thank you. Nothing followed. The silence felt different after that. Not a punishment. Space with the door unlocked but not open. Near the end of February, Evan called. I'd like to see you, he said. For coffee? If that's what you're comfortable with, what do you want to talk about? He was quiet for several seconds. I want to tell you what I did, he said, without explaining why. I looked at the calendar. The blue ink from the wedding was several pages behind us now. Saturday, I said, 10 o'clock, I'll be there. This time, he arrived before I did. He had chosen the same table by the window, but he wasn't wearing Tom's watch. There was no gift beside his coffee, no paper bag, no photograph on his phone waiting to steer us toward a safer memory. He stood when I approached. "Hi, Mom." "Hello?" He pulled out my chair, then seemed embarrassed by the gesture. I sat. "You're early," I said. "I've been late a lot." It sounded rehearsed. He heard it too. "Sorry," he said. "That was something my counselor said. At least you're honest about your sources now." A small smile crossed his face. The server came over. I ordered coffee and toast. Evan already had coffee, black, which meant he had been sitting long enough to finish whatever cream he started with. Neither of us spoke until my cup arrived. Then he placed both hands flat on the table. "I knew before the invitations went out that Claire didn't want you at the wedding," he said. "At first, I told her no, then we kept fighting, and I decided it would be easier to let her have that. I waited. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to see you hurt. That's what I kept saying to myself. But really, I didn't want to be present for the hurt I was causing." His fingers flexed against the tabletop. "I let you keep helping. I ate at your house. I brought the welcome bag supplies. I asked for Dad's cufflinks and the photographs and the story about your marriage. I promised you were coming when I knew you weren't." His voice shook on the last sentence. I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup. "I knew you would forgive me eventually," he continued. "I treated that like permission. I thought Claire's anger had to be prevented because she might leave, and yours could be survived because you wouldn't." The cafe was busy enough to protect us. Cups clattered. A blender started behind the counter. Two men in work jackets argued cheerfully about a truck. Evan looked directly at me. "I used your love as the cheapest thing in the room." My throat tightened. He did not rush to fill the silence. "Keep going," I said. He nodded. "I let Claire tell people you didn't attend formal events after Dad died. I heard her say it at dinner with Paige and 2 other friends. I knew it wasn't true. I thought it solved a problem. You never corrected her." "No." "And when the venue emailed me?" "I was home. Claire told me right away. She said you had answered the meal form and we had to deal with it. I told her I was going to call you. Then I didn't. You declined my call." "Yes, you said you were in a meeting." "Yes." "Why did Claire email me?" "She was angry that I kept delaying. She said somebody had to tell you." "So she did." "Yes." There was no rescue hidden in his answers, no attempt to move the blame across the table. He continued, "When the family started calling, I was angry at you because the consequences were happening before I was ready. I blamed you for telling the truth. I asked you to lie so the wedding would feel better for me." His eyes had gone red, but he didn't look away. "On the wedding day, I didn't suddenly understand," he said. "Uncle Walter asked where you were. Marcy asked. Mike's mother asked why there was no one sitting on my side in the front row. Claire was crying because people were whispering. The coordinator said they could add a chair. So a chair didn't open up. No." I looked out the window. A delivery truck blocked half the street. The driver leaned on the horn, though no one appeared moved by it. "I wrote that because I wanted it to sound accidental," Evan said. "Like the universe had made room. Instead of me finally admitting there should have been room, and the condition about no scene. Claire wanted that. You sent it." "Yes." I turned back. He swallowed. "When you didn't come, I made your refusal the final injury. I told myself I had tried. I sent that message about having my answer because I wanted you to feel guilty enough to fix what I had done. My toast arrived. Neither of us touched it." "I'm sorry," he said. "I am sorry I excluded you. I'm sorry I lied to you and about you. I'm sorry I kept asking for Dad's things as if your grief was available for decoration. I'm sorry I blamed Claire for decisions I made and blamed you for their consequences." He stopped. There was no but. I had imagined this apology many times. In some versions, I forgave him before he finished. In others, I stood and walked away while he finally understood what losing me felt like. The real moment contained cold toast and a stain on the table shaped like Florida. "Did your counselor help you write that?" I asked. "No." "Did Claire?" "No." "How is Claire?" He looked down at his hands. We're not going to live together again. I'm sorry, I am too. Did you decide that together? Eventually. He took a breath. The first month, I kept telling the counselor that the wedding ruined our marriage. She asked whether I meant the decision or the fallout. I said both. Claire said neither. She said the wedding only made it impossible to ignore how we already treated each other. That sounds like Claire. She was right. Claire often is. It's part of her charm. He smiled sadly. We met with a counselor together twice, he said, not to reconcile, to figure out how to stop making each other responsible for everything. Claire said she wanted a husband who would choose her without having to be threatened. I said I wanted a wife who would trust me without tests. And the counselor asked whether either of us had behaved like those people. I let out a slow breath. No, Evan said. We hadn't. He lifted his cup, discovered it was empty, and set it down. Claire is moving to an apartment near Judith. We're being civil. Some days, that's something. She asked if I was coming here to get you back. What did you say? I said I wasn't sure I was allowed to ask for that. I looked at him. What are you asking for? He rubbed his palms against his jeans beneath the table. I want to know what kind of relationship you're willing to have with me. The question hurt more than the apology, not because it was cruel, because he had finally removed the assumption that our old relationship belonged to him. I don't know all of it yet, I said. Okay, I know I don't want what we had. His face tightened, but he nodded. You came to me for comfort you should have learned to give yourself, I continued. And I made that easy because I liked being the person you needed. I told myself it was closeness. Sometimes it was. Sometimes it kept both of us from having to change. He listened without arguing. I want a relationship where you don't love me only in private, I said. I don't want to be the kitchen you hide in while you let someone else describe me as a burden. I don't want to be consulted only when you're frightened or hungry, and I don't want to guess whether you mean what you say. I understand. You understand the words. That's fair. I can meet you for breakfast. He glanced around the cafe. Here? Here is fine. How often? Once a week if we both want to. I want to. I may not invite you home for a while. All right, and I'm not giving you another key. I don't expect one. The answer was immediate. No wound displayed for me to treat. What about holidays, he asked. We'll decide when they arrive. And Diane? You owe her your own conversation. I know. Not because she skipped the wedding, because you and Claire tried to put her in my empty chair and call it family. His face reddened. I know. The server offered more coffee. We both accepted. When she left, Evan said, I'm not asking you to forgive me today. Good. I'm not asking you to say Dad would forgive me either. That's very good. I used him against you. Yes. I'm ashamed of that. You should be. He nodded. I had worried honesty would make me cruel. Instead, it made the room steadier. I do forgive you for saying he'd be ashamed of me, I said. Evan's face crumpled. I waited while he pressed a napkin to his eyes. Thank you, he said. I haven't forgiven everything. I know. I may forgive parts before others. I know. You keep saying that. I'm trying not to negotiate. The laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Evan laughed too, though tears were still on his face. When we stood outside the cafe, he hesitated. Can I hug you? It was such a small question. My son had hugged me his whole life without asking. He had entered my house, opened my refrigerator, and assumed my love would move around him like air. Yes, I said. He put his arms around me carefully. I held him, but I did not tell him everything was all right. It wasn't. Everything was beginning to be honest. Our first few breakfasts were terrible. Evan arrived early and spoke like a man being recorded. He apologized for interrupting, apologized for choosing the wrong table, and once apologized because I ordered oatmeal after he suggested pancakes. If you keep doing this, I said, I'm going to bring a bell and ring it every time you say sorry unnecessarily. Sorry. I stared at him. That one was a joke. Needs work. By April, we could discuss ordinary things without using them as bridges around the wedding. He told me about his apartment's unreliable heat. I told him Diane's blue chair had begun making a sound like a trapped duck. When he had a flat tire, he called a roadside service instead of me. When my kitchen faucet began whining louder, I hired a plumber instead of waiting for him to notice. Neither act felt like progress. That was probably why they were. Evan met Diane at the Harbor Diner. She told me almost nothing afterward. He apologized, she said. And? I listened. Did you forgive him? Some of it. What did you order? The Turkey Club. That was all she gave me. Marcy took longer. She believed the family had been made to carry private pain that should have remained private. Evan called her anyway and told her he had lied about my choice not to attend. He called Walter next. He did not send a grand message or demand that everyone update their opinion of Claire. He corrected his own words one person at a time. Claire sent me a note in May. Not an email. A plain card with her handwriting inside. I'm sorry I made your absence a condition of feeling secure. It didn't make me secure. I hope we both learn from that. She did not ask for an answer. I sent one anyway. So do I. The card remained on my desk for a week. Then I put it in a drawer, separate from the cedar box. On the anniversary of the wedding, I went to the coast with Diane. We stayed at the Seabreeze again. Stephanie recognized us and wisely did not ask whether we were attending anything. Diane bought another lighthouse magnet. You still don't have a magnetic refrigerator, I said. I'm building a collection for the day you do. We walked the beach in clear weather. I did not carry Tom's cufflinks. They belonged to Evan now, and he kept them in his apartment beside the watch. When I returned, Evan and I met for our usual breakfast. He was wearing a green shirt and had already ordered coffee for me, but nothing else. Do you still like toast? He asked. I have not changed my position. I didn't want to assume. There are limits to growth. He ordered pancakes. I ordered eggs and toast. Halfway through breakfast, he asked, what really happened at that motel with you and Dad? Which version did he tell you? That the bed collapsed during a moment of marital enthusiasm. Your father was a liar, I suspected. The bed collapsed because he stood on it to kill a moth. Evan stared at me. A moth? It was large. How large? Emotionally or physically? He laughed. I told him about our first anniversary, the room with blue curtains, the seafood dinner Tom couldn't afford but ordered anyway, the rain that trapped us inside, the cracked wooden bed leg, Tom standing on the mattress with one of my shoes, while I shouted that the moth had already flown out the window. I told him how we spent the night on the floor because Tom was too embarrassed to call the desk. How did you stay married to him? Evan asked. One day at a time, occasionally from separate rooms. No, I mean after all the hard parts. I don't know. He waited. A year earlier, he would have filled that silence with another question or turned the answer toward himself. This time, he stayed. So I told him the part I had written for the wedding display and then hidden in the cedar box. Not the polished 2 pages, the living version. I told him how Tom could be stubborn and afraid, how I could turn sacrifice into a debt nobody knew they owed, how we hurt each other, apologized badly, and learned to come back without pretending nothing happened. Evan listened until our plates were cleared and the coffee went cold. When I finished, he did not say the story would have looked beautiful beside the flowers. He said, I wish I'd asked you before. I reached across the table and rested my hand over his. You're asking now, I said. Outside, people hurried past the window, carrying groceries, coffee, dry cleaning, the plain equipment of ordinary lives. Evan stayed in his chair. For that morning, so did I.